Chapter 809 Humanity's 23rd Reserve Corps Camp. A middle-aged cultivator was sitting behind a table, carefully reading a jade tag. Zhang Xiaoyun, a loose cultivator. His ancestors have been earning cultivation resources through cooking for generations. During the last desolate world invasion, everyone in his family was massacred, leaving only Zhang Xiaoyun. So he joined the army. The above information has been verified. Please make your decision. General, followed by the names of the scouts responsible for intelligence. The middle-aged cultivator put the jade tag back on the table and observed the young man in front of him. His appearance was ordinary, and his cultivation base was ordinary. As he was being observed, the young man appeared nervous. TSK, what a pitiful young man. The middle-aged cultivator asked the deputy general next to him. Do we not have enough cooks in our camp? The deputy general reported. General, we've always lacked cooks. It was also because we didn't have enough cooks last time that led to that incident. Hearing that, the middle-aged cultivator scowled. Last time, all the cultivators in the camp complained about how bad spirit cooking was, causing a series of protests. Some even openly fed spirit cooking to pigs. Mainly because there were too many people, the cooks couldn't keep up, so the taste of the spirit cooking was naturally not as good. The middle-aged cultivator asked, How's his cooking skill? The cooks have already tried it. They all agreed, the deputy general replied. The general said, Then what are you waiting for? Go and register him into the camp. He'll be able to help out today. Yes, the deputy general replied. The middle-aged cultivator cleared his throat, then told the young man in front of him, Zhang Xiaoyun, right? The entire camp's meals will depend on the few of you. Make sure to pay attention after you join the camp. Yes, the young man clasped his fist. Very well. You may leave. The middle-aged cultivator waved his hand. Understood, General. The young man was led away by someone else. After dealing with this small matter, the middle-aged cultivator quickly forgot about it. After all, he had to manage the camp's affairs. There were too many things waiting for him to deal with. Gu Qingshan was led to a certain building and patiently waited there. He still needed a bit more time to complete a series of procedures. After all the procedures were completed, an identity token would be made for him. He couldn't do it without one. Walking around the military camp without permission could result in being killed by the array at any time. Gu Qingshan sat there and waited. Feeling bored, she reached out and touched the edge of her cheek. He didn't feel anything strange. However, a line of glowing text appeared in front of him. Item name, Ice Cicada Silver Mask Special Tools. It's the most outstanding disguise mask created by the human race. It can even adjust one's cultivation level accordingly without anyone noticing. The only thing you need to be careful of is not to let the gods keep watching you. Otherwise, they will notice something wrong. Gu Qingshan felt relieved. This mask came from Luo Bingley. She had personally said that after Gu Qingshan wore this mask, as long as she was not stared at by the gods for a long time, there would be no problem. The place where Gu Qingshan was located was the most remote reserve camp. Gods usually only appeared in the middle of the army and the vanguard. They would never come to this kind of reserve. Taking a step back, even if a divinity came, out of the most basic of respect, the military camp wouldn't let a cook meet a divinity. This identity was too safe. He was currently using Zhang Xiaoyun's appearance, and his cultivation was suppressed to Golden Core realm. Walking among the crowd, he was the most inconspicuous existence. This was all thanks to the Ice Cicada Silver Mask. Gu Qingshan put his hand on his inventory bag again and carefully sensed the situation inside. There was a jade wall inside the inventory bag. He couldn't help but recall the scene before he left. In the Sword Abyss, when Luo Bingley was about to take Gu Qingshan away, Xie Guhong called out to them. Qingshan, I prepared everything you need for cultivation, but there's something else I need to give you, Xie Guhong said. Yes, Master, Gu Qingshan replied. Xie Guhong tapped his inventory bag and took something out. Even the Sword Abyss was slightly shaken. As Gu Qingshan looked closer, she saw that it was a large white rectangular rock that was 8 people tall and 20 people long. This rectangular white boulder was simply too mighty and tall. Its entire body exuded a faint sword intent. Master, what kind of treasure tool is this? Why is it so large? Gu Shan asked. My disciple, this is not a treasure tool. It is a super large jade tag that contains all of the sword cultivation scriptures I've compiled. It will help you reach great accomplishment as a sword saint and break through to the next realm. If you focus on studying and cultivating, you will be able to break through to your master's current realm. Looking up at the super large jade tag, Gu Shan felt a sense of excitement. I've finally obtained the most extraordinary sword inheritance from the age of old. Master, this thing is very precious. I'm afraid. It's fine. I've already set up a soul vessel seal on a jade tag. Other than you, if anyone tries to read this jade tag, the jade tag will immediately be destroyed. That's good. But how do I carry it? Just put it in my inventory bag and check it with your soul vessel. That's convenient. Gu Shan was so bored that she began to study the sword jade tag. About half an instance's worth of time later. Zhang Xiaoyun, come in and get your badge, someone called out. Yes. Gu Shan answered, took her hand off the inventory bag, and stood up. As he entered the room, he saw that there were a lot of people coming and going, extremely busy. The deputy general from before looked at him and smiled. You have to work hard. After all, what we eat every day will depend on you. Gu Shan clasped her fist. Don't worry, sir. This humble one has always been very serious, especially when it comes to spirit cooking. Hearing that, the deputy general and the people around him all appeared pleased. Regardless of how good this brat's cooking is, having him as one more cook will greatly reduce the pressure on the other cooks, and the taste of the food will naturally improve. The deputy general picked up a jade tag from the table and tossed it to Gu Shan. Gu Shan reached her hand out to catch it. The jade tag abruptly stopped in midair. Silence. All sound disappeared. The smile on the deputy general's face didn't change at all. His hand was still making the tossing motion. Next to him, a cultivator was arranging the jade tag, while two other cultivators were checking a certain number. Their mouths were open, talking, but also completely motionless. Everyone in the room fell into a state of stagnation. A sword appeared from the void of space behind Gu Shan, turning into Shanu. Gongzi, time has stopped, Shanna said. Gu Shan replied in a low voice. It's fine, let's wait and see. He took out the Chaoyin sword and held it in his hand. All of a sudden, a young man descended from above. The spirit tortoise. The spirit tortoise had turned into human form. This was the first time he appeared since he sent Gu Shan into this phantom image. Young tortoise, what's going on? Gu Shan clasped his fist and asked. The spirit tortoise's expression was a bit tense. He replied, just now I suddenly felt an intense fluctuation in space-time. Something must have snuck in? Gu Shan repeated. Yes, something that I don't know what it was came from the river of time and snuck into this phantom image, the spirit tortoise replied. How did something like that happen? Has this ever happened before? Gu Shan asked. The spirit tortoise exuded killing intent. It has not. In truth, my duty is to protect this phantom image of the age of old. Any entity that dares to peek or try to sneak in will be killed by me on the spot. What about that thing? The spirit tortoise appeared a bit unwilling. That thing used an extremely miraculous method to return from the distant future, ignoring all of my defensive measures, and directly entered the phantom image. Although I am the spirit tortoise of the age of old, I found that I couldn't stop this. Furthermore, I'm still too young. I can't deal with it with my current strength. That's why I came to find you. He stared closely at Gu Shan and continued. The tortoise race has always been the best at defense and divination. So I performed a divination and found that if you continue to stay here, you will most likely die. Because of that, you now have two choices. The first is to take what you've gained, immediately leave this phantom image, and return with me. The second is to stay here and hide from that thing while continuing to search for more things from the age of old. Gu Shan went silent. I've already obtained the sword scripture inheritance from the age of old, so it's not impossible for me to leave. Even the spirit tortoise doesn't know what that thing is, and it can't do anything about it either. With my current strength, I definitely won't be able to deal with it. Gu Shan then asked, leaving is the best choice, but after I leave this place, can I go find the heaven sword? The spirit tortoise sighed, that won't do. Seeing how serious the situation is, I might as well tell you honestly. You must complete this phantom image of the age of old before you have the right to proceed to the next step, which will be the beginning of the search for the Heaven Sword. Then I'll continue to stay here, Gu Qing Shan resolutely said. I need to remind you, that thing is coming for you. The current you isn't a match for it. You might very well die here, the spirit tortoise told her. Chapter 810. Are you sure you want to stay here? The spirit tortoise looked deeply at Gu Qing Shan and asked. Yes, this is my only chance. I have to find the Heaven Sword, Gu Qing Shan replied. For the Earth Sword? The spirit tortoise asked. Yes, Gu Qing Shan replied. The spirit tortoise shook its head. Do as you wish, but your chances of survival are very slim. It glanced at Gu Qing Shan one last time before disappearing. It had left. As the guardian of the age of old, it could only inform Gu Qing Shan of the situation, not make decisions for Gu Qing Shan. Gu Qing Shan said nothing. Shanu consoled him. Gongzi, it's fine, you still have a few hundred more chances. Gu Qing Shan shook her head. You can't think of it that way, Shanu. We can't afford to be careless at all. We have to tread on thin ice. Because before I met the dark figure of light, I didn't even know that it had such a bizarre ability. At the same time, since that entity was able to return to the age of old from the future and directly enter the phantom images, who knows what else it might be capable of? He thought for a bit and muttered, what if it doesn't kill me and only takes control of me, then uses some unimaginable method to deal with my soul? What can we do then? Hearing that, Shanu felt a chill down her spine and hurriedly said, Gongzi, that can't be. I think that should be the case. If it entered the phantom images of the age of old, and its target is me, it must know that I'm here, Gu Qing Shan continued. Since it spent so much effort to come here, it must have made ample preparations beforehand. Understanding me is the most basic thing it can do, so there's a very high chance that it knows that I can return here a few hundred times. It knows that, but it still came here, Shanna muttered. It was now that she realized just how dangerous the situation was. That's right, regardless of what it is, since it came from the future, it must know a lot of things that we don't. I think it must have prepared a way to capture me, Gu Qing Shan said. Shanna worriedly asked. Gongzi, then why aren't we leaving? Gu Qing Shan smiled. Leave? We still haven't found the Heaven Sword, so we definitely can't leave. Young master, don't worry. My identity is absolutely confidential now. Even the gods don't know about it. It won't be that easy for them to find me. Gu Qing Shan thought for a bit, then continued. In other words, if it's even more powerful than a divinity, able to travel through time, return to the age of old from the future, and find me directly, then no matter how many times we go back, we wouldn't be a match for it. If such an existence really exists, I'm afraid no one would be able to defeat it, young master. Haha, yes. The flow of time returned to normal. Gu Qing Shan took the identity token from the deputy general and said with a smile, Thank you, Darren. Someone, bring him to his colleague. Yes. A cultivator came out and brought Gu Qing Shan outside. Time flew by. Gu Qing Shan soon got to know a few cooks in the camp and became friends with some of the old cooks. When it got dark, he joined in the preparation of dinner. His cooking skills were already excellent. His actions were quick and efficient, so he quickly made his way into the cook's team. After all, no matter what field they were in, only those with true skills would be recognized by others. After all, when the entire camp's meals were prepared and the cultivators finished their dinner, the cooks were all exhausted. Gu Qing Shan stepped out of his own accord and personally cooked a few dishes for the cooks. Every dish was excellent, more exquisite and delicious than the food in the camp. This made him even more popular. Zhang Xiaoyun, you're quite good. Where did you learn your cooking skills? The cook Elder Zhang asked. It's a family heirloom. Gu Qing Shan smiled and replied. Ah, your father was also a cook? Which camp? The old man asked curiously. He's no longer here after the desolate world invasion. What about the rest of your family? They're all gone. Ah, I see. I'm sorry. It's fine. Gu Qing Shan smiled. The old man thought for a bit, then said, We don't have any rules here. You only need to come when we're cooking. You can rest whenever you want. There's a market in the southeast direction. You can go there if you have nothing to do. Gu Qing Shan noticed his goodwill and clasped her fist. Thank you, Boss Zhang, for your advice at this time. Another cook secretly poked Old Zhang's head and gave him a look. Boss, you can talk to him about that matter. Old man Zhang glared back. He's still too young. He can't even hold a knife properly. The cook was a bit unwilling, but Boss had already expressed his attitude, so he could only smile to hide his embarrassment. Uncle Lu, just tell me what it is. It's fine. Gu Qing sincerely said. The one called Uncle Lu asked, Do you know where the meat in our cooking comes from? I don't. That's the meat of desolate monsters. What? We're eating their meat? Gu Qing was surprised. Seeing his expression of interest, but no fear, Uncle Lu was a bit disappointed. He had no choice but to continue. Indeed, this meat is very beneficial to cultivators, so whenever there's a war at the front lines, countless monsters would be transported to the rear. Please continue, Gu Qing said. Uncle Lu explained, if these monsters have been dead for a long time, their meat won't be edible anymore. That's why these monsters are completely crippled by the cultivators each time. While they're still breathing, they'll be transported here and slaughtered by the 23 matriculation camps behind us. And then? Gu Qing asked. And then, this month, it's our camp's turn. We've already taken turns, and since you're here, why don't you give a try? Uncle Lu said. Nonsense, he's still so young. He'd be lucky not to be scared to death when he sees those monsters. How would he dare to slaughter them? Old man Zhang shouted. Another cook also tried to persuade him. That's right, Old Lu. Zhang Xiaoyun is still too young. We're already scared to death when we see those monsters, let alone a teenager like him. Seeing everyone disagreeing, Uncle Lu grumbled. We're all cooks, so what if he's young? You're right. Gu Qing clapped her hands. What's going on? The cooks all looked at Gu Qing. Everyone saw that he didn't have any fear on his face. Instead, his eyes were glowing. Gu Qing clasped his fist towards Old Man Zhang and spoke with a serious expression. Boss Zhang, let me do it. Old Man Zhang looked at him from head to toe and spoke. That slaughterhouse is filled with blood and flesh. The monsters will scream in agony before they die. Their blood will splatter all over you. Slaughtering monsters usually takes 5 days of work. During these 5 days, you'll be constantly killing monsters, even if you're about to die from fear. You can't run away. Zhang Xiaoyun, you better think this through. Gu Qing smirked and happily smiled. Don't worry, my true profession is a butcher. Spirit cooking is only my way of making a living. A butcher? That means you've killed quite a few demon beasts before? Uncle Lu asked with interest. Gu Qing nodded. I've killed quite a few, as well as a few other things. In short, I'm quite competent in this line of work, even more so than spirit cooking. He smiled at the cooks. Don't worry, everyone. I'll do it this month. I promise I won't embarrass our camp. Everyone looked at the pure smile on his face and nodded in unison. For some reason, everyone felt a chill down their spines. Still in the age of old, at a place extremely far away from Gu Qing. This was a barren land, a place where no one would come. Desolate monsters wouldn't attack from here because this place was too vast and barren. There was nothing of value here. Normally, such a place would return to its former state of desolation along with time. But today, just a few moments before Gu Qing and the spirit tortoise met, something happened here. A coin appeared in the sky. This was a very unique coin because it was entirely blood red, completely different from the other coins of the strife zones. It spun around in the sky before shattering into pieces. As soon as the coin shattered, a sea of light appeared in the sky. The sea of light poured down, forming a surging tide on the barren wasteland. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. A figure stood up from within the tide of light. The vast sea of light instantly faded away. Only that figure remained on the empty wasteland. In the wind, the figure began to whisper. I've finally made it here since I'm here. There won't be any more problems in the future. His voice suddenly became filled with hatred and killing intent, but he also tried his best to maintain a sense of mockery. How pitiful. You must still be looking for that sword at a time like this. As long as I can find you at this point in time, capture you, and thoroughly imprison your soul. The things that happen in the future will never happen again. I will use every method I can think of to torture your soul. Chapter 8:11. In the Barren Wilderness. The figure stood still without moving, as if waiting for something. Time slowly passed. 15 minutes later, a stream of light flew over from the sky, and a figure appeared in the air. It was a patrolling cultivator who was ordered by the sect to check the situation. This place was so secluded that even if there were any supernatural phenomena, it would be very hard to sense it from several thousand miles away. Not to mention, the figure only took a few breaths' worth of time to appear before the supernatural phenomena disappeared. The nearby sect only sensed a slight abnormality, so they sent a cultivator to check the situation. The patrolling cultivator flew above the figure and shouted, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" He held the tool in his hand, ready to attack at any moment. In such a desolate place, there was a single person standing still. This in itself was very strange. "You asked who I am?" The figure asked in return and looked up. The patrolling cultivator's expression changed. He hurriedly descended from the sky and knelt down in front of the figure. "I didn't know that divinity was here. I have offended you. Please forgive me. There's no mistaking it." A flame of light between the eyebrows, a body shrouded in glorious light that makes it impossible to see their appearance. This is a divinity. I actually scolded a divinity. This is a great crime. Thinking that, the cultivator couldn't help but tremble. The figure carefully observed the trembling cultivator, then, after a long while, spoke in satisfaction. Your attitude is quite good. It allowed me to feel the humbleness of living beings from the age of old. So I have decided to grant you forgiveness and a gift." The cultivator froze, unable to understand the first half of the other party's sentence. Fortunately, he understood the last half. A divinity wants to grant me a gift. This is truly a great opportunity. The cultivator bowed and spoke in joy. "Thank you, divinity, for your favor. This humble one is eternally grateful." The figure reached his hand out and placed it on the cultivator's forehead. "Your gratitude is so real. I can feel it." Saying so, the figure began to change. It turned into the cultivator's appearance. They were exactly the same, so much so that even the closest people to this cultivator couldn't tell them apart. The only difference was that one of them had a flame of light between his eyebrows. The figure seemed to have noticed this as well. He wiped his forehead with his hand, and the flame immediately disappeared. It was only then that he spoke. "Since you are so humble and have provided me with an identity, I shall grant you a painless destruction. I rarely grant living beings such a peaceful death. It is your honor." The cultivator was stunned. He had no idea what was going on. Before he could do anything, his entire body gradually lost its vitality and turned into a gray statue. The sculpture was blown away by the wind and turned into dust, flying all over the sky. He no longer existed in the world. No, the other him was still there. He waved his hand. All the magic tools and storage bags on the ground flew into his hands. He put the items away, closed his eyes, and carefully examined the cultivator's memories. Gu Qing-shan, Xiegu Hong's eldest disciple, caused a ruckus in Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace, drawing the attention of the divinities. This is a crucial time. Many divinities are paying attention to that sect. How troublesome. I can't meet them from the past. Seems like I'll have to think of a way to enter Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace. The cultivator pondered for a long time before flying into the sky and flying into the distance. The other side, Human Race 23rd Reserve Corps Camp. It was deep into the night. Gu Qing-shan wandered around the camp several times before arriving at the main gate. The cultivator in charge of guarding the formation looked at his waist tag and smiled. "I was wondering why the spirit cooking today was unexpectedly delicious. Turns out it was because of a new cook. You flatter me." Gu Qing-shan smiled and replied. "Then where are you going?" the cultivator asked. "I'm going to take a stroll. I'm not familiar with the surroundings yet," Gu Qing-shan replied. Hearing that, the cultivator patiently told him, "Don't go north. That place is close to a few other camps. You can't trespass without permission. The west side is a barren mountain with nothing in it, but there's a market in the southeast that's close to a few sects. It's very lively. You can go there. Thank you for your guidance." Gu Qing-shan clasped his fist and said, Go. The cultivator opened the formation and Gu Qingshan left the camp. He first flew southeast for a while. Only after confirming that there was no one around did he turn west. After flying for about half an hour, Gu Qingshan had reached the deepest part of the barren mountain. He chose an empty area, landed, and finished arranging the layers of formations. Standing still and silently meditating for a bit, Gu Qingshan felt that he had made his preparations. He put the ice cicada silver mask away, circulated his spirit energy, and began to break through to the next realm. Sensing a certain omen from his body, heaven and earth began to change accordingly. Intense wind began to blow. Dark clouds gathered. Bolts of lightning flashed incessantly in the clouds. Lines of glowing text began to appear in front of Gu Qingshan's eyes on the War God UI. You're currently breaking through virtualized realm, advancing towards cryptic realm. The heaven's tribulation is about to descend. Please prepare to face it. 5, 4, begin. Boom! The sparks of lightning rained down. Gu Qingshan stood still and focused his thoughts. 2 flying swords appeared from the void of space, shot to the sky, and slashed at the sparks of lightning. The bolts of lightning were split into sparks and scattered by the flying swords. But even more bolts of lightning appeared from within the tribulation clouds, striking towards Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan silently formed a sword seal. The 2 swords turned into blurred images, flying through the storm of lightning at full speed. The balls of lightning were pierced through by the flying swords. The sparks of lightning and the flying swords continued to clash. Time slowly passed. The lightning tribulation was reaching its end. Gu Qingshan knew that something was about to happen. He sighed, rubbed his face, and tried his best to appear as friendly as possible. A second later, Wahaha, Devil King Gu, you're facing your tribulation again. Your advancement speed sure is fast. A Devil King jumped out from the void of space. Old Gu, when this king appeared this time, I can feel that the tribulation suppression on this king has lessened quite a bit. It seems you've grown stronger. A gigantic Devil King appeared from the void of space with his back hunched. Another Devil King, wearing a Taoist robe without a single wrinkle on it, appeared from the void of space and waved at Gu Qingshan. Boss Gu, come. Since you've reached cryptic realm, the heaven's tribulation has finally arranged for a few big shots to come here. Let me introduce you to them. Gu Qingshan opened his arms and smiled. Old blood devil. Ahaha. Welcome, brothers and sisters. I've already prepared quite a bit of spirit food and meat. Let's take this chance to have a good gathering. That's right. As soon as I received the confirmation of the tribulation, I immediately accepted the seed of tribulation and came here early. It's all because of you, old Gu. Come. Everyone get a table and have a drink. It's been a while since I last came out, Where's that female Devil King from last time? Aha, you like her? She likes to eat fiends like you, Actually, I also like to eat fiends like her, but that's all in the past when I was young. Now is a good time to have a chat. A female voice came. Have a chat? Or just flirt? A female Devil King appeared from the void of space and floated down. She landed next to Gu Qingshan, blew into his ear, then looked at the other evil creatures. Devil King Gu is the fiercest type of fiend. Only this Devil King likes them. The rest of you don't need to bother the evil creatures. All laughed. Gu Qingshan offered a cup of liquor to the female Devil King and smiled. Come, drink. His face was already a bit stiff. A grand banquet began. Chapter 8:12. The heaven's tribulation that was supposed to take 2 hours was extended to 8 hours. Both the host and the guests were happy. Finally, it was over. The evil creatures were reluctant to part. The banquet was over. The night returned to silence. Gu Qingshan drank a few more mouthfuls of the soup, but still felt dizzy. Looking around, he confirmed that there weren't any evil creatures left. It was now that he circulated his spirit energy to disperse the alcohol in his body. A hazy mist of wine emanated from his body and was blown away by the wind. For a moment, the entire mountainside was filled with the smell of wine. He alone drank 5 barrels of spirit alcohol that were half the size of a person. Not to mention the evil creatures. They were all drunk. Shanu, pinch your nose. Gongzi, The smell of the alcohol is so bad. It must have been hard on you. It's fine, Gu Qingshan replied. Shanu thought for a bit. Actually, when you were drinking just now, Gongzi could have used your spirit energy to disperse the alcohol while drinking. That way you wouldn't feel so bad. Gu Qingshan smiled bitterly. If that's the case, everyone can see that there's no point in drinking anymore. Shanu gritted her teeth. How about the next time they come, I'll fight them and chase them all away. That way Gongzi won't have to deal with them every time. Gu Qingshan waved her hand dismissively. It's just a drinking session. Seeing that she was still a bit unconvinced, Gu Qingshan also became a bit more serious and slowly spoke. Shanu, after observing for so long, no matter if it's the age of old or our current era, there are a total of 3 types of entities that can communicate with each other within the infinite world. Sure enough, Shanu's attention was caught. Ah, are there only 3? Gongzi, which 3 are they? Gu Qingshan sighed. That's right, some are gods, some are humans, that is living beings, and some are ghosts. Being a god is actually the easiest. They can create all things, give life to living beings. Before they run away, they are worshipped by countless living beings. Even after they run away, countless living beings would still chase after them and worship them. As a human, life is very difficult. You have to worship the gods and work hard to improve your strength to help the gods resist those terrifying monsters. Moreover, the fate of a human is always fixed. You will always be used by the gods, and you will never see hope in your life. As for the devils, I don't think many of them were created by the gods. One of the most important pieces of evidence is that the world of the devils isn't something ordinary people can find, and ordinary people can't enter the world of the devils. In addition, the devils don't need to listen to the gods. They live according to the common laws of the billions of worlds. You see, the heavenly tribulation even invites them to do things, so the devils are actually freer than humans. At least they don't need to listen to the gods. Gongzi, how do you know that evil creatures don't listen to divinities? Shanu asked. Last time, when the Tianma helped the Demon King Order steal divine materials, I already noticed it. Gu Qingshan continued. The Tianma stole from the divinities in order to help the hated order evolve. This means that the Tianma completely ignore the divinities. Then, why did Gongzi become friends with them? There's no particular reason. I just want to become true friends. Gu Qingshan smiled. If one day they need my help, I'll help them. At the same time, if they come when I need them, they might even be able to help me out a lot. Gu Qingshan spoke with a serious expression. That's why we need to make more friends when we're out here, especially during the apocalypse. Don't just go up and beat up everyone you see, thinking that it's very cool, but it's not. We're not the main characters of fantasy novel. There's no need for us to cause trouble. Gongzi, you're going around in a big circle to persuade me not to fight. All right, I understand. Shanu paused a bit, then smiled and teased him. Furthermore, Gongzi really is too lonely. You need a few friends, especially the female Devil King. Just now, seeing the killing intent on her face disappearing and that she still had the mood to tease him, Gu Qingshan slowly relaxed. She's not my type. She's too flirtatious. Gu Qingshan sighed. While he was joking, he was staring at the void of space. Lines of glowing text were scrolling across his retina. This tribulation has ended. You've broken through to cryptic realm. Your total spiritual energy has been greatly increased. As a cryptic realm cultivator, you've awakened thaumaturgy on the War God UI. The icon representing War God skills lit up. New lines of glowing text appeared from the option to form a notification. You've broken through to cryptic realm. You can now trigger the thaumaturgy awakening quest. Would you like to trigger it? Yes, Gu Qingshan replied. You will be faced with the following choices. 1. Complete a series of quests to awaken a new thaumaturgy. 2. Complete a single quest to evolve your lightning thaumaturgy. Reading the lines of glowing text in front of him, Gu Qingshan fell into thought. A new thaumaturgy. Of course it's good to have a new thaumaturgy. But his lightning thaumaturgy had already been upgraded 3 times, from lost control to rigid, then to severance. I've just experienced a fragment of the Age of Old where I used severance to help the cultivators of the Age of Old eliminate the entire desolate Demon Eye army. Not to mention, The cultivators of the age of old had never seen a lightning thaumaturgy before. From the looks of it, if Severance can be upgraded one more time, it would be a great help. Gu Qing Shan couldn't make up his mind, so he asked the war god system, "If I choose a new thaumaturgy, what kind of thaumaturgy will I get?" The war god system replied, "A new thaumaturgy contains uncertainties. It will be randomly chosen the same way as the previous thaumaturgy." Gu Qing Shan asked, "Just like the first time I drew a lightning thaumaturgy?" "Correct. If you want, I can simulate the actual situation of the thaumaturgy for you to consider," the system replied. "Then let's simulate it once. I want to see what kind of thaumaturgy it is," Gu Qing Shan said. "Please pay 100 soul points," the system replied. "I need soul points to simulate it. Can't you just show it to me for free?" Gu Qing Shan asked. The system paused briefly, then solemnly replied, "The system will permanently close the simulation. Wait a minute. I'll pay." Gu Qing Shan hurriedly said. He paid 100 soul points. The war god system then replied, "Soul points received, simulating thaumaturgy extraction. Attention, the following is only a simulation, not the real thing." 3 unique icons appeared at the center of the war god UI. Thaumaturgy extraction complete. According to your quest progress, the following 3 thaumaturgies will be generated. Please choose one from the 3 thaumaturgies to awaken. Gu Qing Shan looked at the 3 icons. He noticed that whenever he looked at one of the icons, it would light up, and the description of the thaumaturgy would appear next to it. The first icon was a gray card. The gray card depicted an old man kneeling on the ground in a praying posture. As Gu Qing Shan looked at it, the description appeared next to the card. Summoning card, Primal Chaos Summon. Because you become a card, you can draw this thaumaturgy, Primal Chaos Summon. You will be able to randomly summon chaos creatures from the fog of primal chaos to aid you in battle. Description: due to your card's level limit, you cannot control this summon. You may summon a worm or a monster on par with a deity. Description: when the monster you summon is 10 times stronger than you, it will devour you. Gu Qing Shan shook his head. There's too much uncertainty in this skill, so it's hard to say whether it'll be good or bad in battle. But since this skill has appeared, it means I can draw skill cards now. That's a new piece of information. Gu Qing Shan looked at the next icon. The icon depicted a set of armor made of frost. Lines of description appeared next to the armor. Protection Thaumaturgy, Frost Armor Primary. Description: when you wear this armor in battle, you can activate this thaumaturgy. With this thaumaturgy, your armor's defense will be increased by 30%. Gu Qing Shan took a deep breath. If it's primary, then this thaumaturgy can evolve. Perhaps this thaumaturgy is the same as Severance and can be upgraded even more in the future. After reaching Cryptic Realm, I'll be able to draw thaumaturgies that aren't related to lightning. This information is also very important. But from an objective point of view, Severance is already able to change the tide of battle against the desolate monsters, so it would be even more useful if it evolves to the next stage. He looked at the final icon. This icon seems a bit familiar. The third icon, a female portrait. But this time, there was an extra crown on top of the female portrait. Divine Skill, Emperor's Transformation. Description: using this skill, the user will transform into an empress. Their beauty will be increased by 1800%. Their strength will be increased by 130%. Gu Qing Shan cleared his throat. He spent a bit of time resisting the temptation of having his strength increased by 130%, while telling himself that this was only a random simulation. "All right, I understand now," he told the War God system. "Please make your choice," the War God system replied. "I'll ask one last time, between the new Thaumaturgy quest and the Lightning Evolution quest, which one is harder?" Gu Qing Shan asked. "The Lightning Thaumaturgy quest is harder," the War God system replied. Gu Qing Shan understood. Seems like the War God system has confirmed that the 4th stage of Lightning Control Thaumaturgy is much stronger than most thaumaturgies in Cryptic Realm. "I choose a single quest to evolve my Lightning Thaumaturgy," Gu Qing Shan decided. "Are you sure?" the War God system asked. "I'm sure." "Very well. You're about to face the most dangerous battle of your life. A single misstep and you'll lose your life. Are you sure you want to start this quest right away? The war god system asked again with a serious tone. Gu Qingshan paused. The system warned her. Seems like this quest is going to be very hard. After all, my thaumaturgy has already reached the 4th stage, so I'm probably going to face an unprecedented challenge. Gu Qingshan spoke in a low voice. I've made up my mind. Come, this is the quest. Please tell me the details of the quest. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared on the War God UI. Thaumaturgy Quest. Lightning of Life. Quest description. This is the age of old, a time when the desolate world was extremely powerful. You must fight against monsters that even the divinities are afraid of, absorbing their immense power to awaken the 4th stage of the lightning thaumaturgy. Quest objective. Kill 100 desolate monsters without fear of any danger. Quest reward. Lightning of Life 4th stage. Awaken. Gu Qingshan stared at the quest and froze for a long while. I need to kill 100 desolate monsters. Even many great cultivators might not be able to kill 100 desolate monsters in a short amount of time. Furthermore, killing too many might draw the attention of a large number of enemies on the battlefield, causing them to focus their attacks on her. This was indeed an extremely difficult and dangerous thing to do. However, Chapter 8:13. An airship descended from the sky and stopped in front of the slaughterhouse. The airship opened to reveal 3 figures. The cooks of the 23rd Reserve Camp. Old Man Zhang, Uncle Lu, and Zhang Xiaoyun. This is the place, Zhang Xiaoyun. You have to work here for 5 days before you can return, Uncle Lu told him. Old Man Zhang and Uncle Lu both pinched their noses and scowled at the slaughterhouse. The air was filled with the thick scent of blood. This scent couldn't be isolated even with spirit energy. It was truly unbearable. Furthermore, in a place where too many monsters died, elemental spirit energy became chaotic and turbulent, causing cultivators who were used to communicating with heaven and earth spirit energy to feel uncomfortable. Xiaoyun, are you all right? Old Man Zhang worriedly asked. As Gu Qingshan was about to say something, a desperate howl resounded from deep inside the slaughterhouse. Poof! A smoke-like mist of blood rose into the air, followed by a flurry of panicked chatter. The cut was too shallow. Didn't kill it. What now? It's shaking nonstop. I can't hold it down anymore. Cut it again. Cut it. Don't stop. I bit me. What? You were bitten? Hurry. Enforcer cultivators, come quickly. Someone was bitten. Streaks of light flew towards that area. A mist of blood erupted and dyed the entire area in nearby scarlet. A cold voice resounded. Leave the monster's corpse. Take the human's corpse away. Continue your work. The voice disappeared. The entire slaughterhouse returned to silence. But the scent of blood in the air seemed to have gotten a bit heavier. Standing outside the slaughterhouse, Uncle Lu couldn't help but shrink back a bit, making him look a bit shorter than before. He pulled Old Man Zhang's head and forced a smile. Xiaoyun will be fine. He's still young and strong, perfect for this job. Let's quickly return. Old Man Zhang was still worried, so he glanced at Gu Qingshan and said, Zhang Xiaoyun, I'll come pick you up in 5 days. His voice was cut off, and he was completely stunned. Zhang Xiaoyun stood still and took a deep breath. This smell of blood is really nostalgic. He narrowed his eyes and revealed an interested expression. It was as if he was standing outside a bustling bazaar, full of longing and curiosity. Zhang Xiaoyun stepped forward. What a great place I'm going to, ah? Boss Zhang, Uncle Lu, why haven't you left yet? Old Zhang, Uncle Lu, don't worry, leave the rest to me. Just come pick me up in 5 days, Zhang Xiaoyun said to the two with a smile. Uncle Lu could not help but bow. He tried his best to sound gentle. Then we have nothing to worry about. See you in 5 days. Okay, see you later. Gu Qingshan waved her hand and strode to the entrance of the slaughterhouse. After checking her waste token with the cultivator on duty, she was allowed to enter. Old Zhang and Uncle Lu watched him until he was out of sight. They remained silent. Old Zhang suddenly said, Old Lu, listen to me. You can't mess with this young man. From now on, keep your little schemes to yourself. Otherwise, if something happens, I won't be able to take care of you. Uncle Lu couldn't say anything and only nodded. As soon as Gu Shan entered the slaughterhouse, she was led to see the cultivator in charge. The cultivator's surname was Li. He had an unapproachable face and a cold tone, so everyone around him called him Manager Li. Seeing how young Gu Shan was, Manager Li was also a bit surprised, so he asked a few more questions. As they talked, Gu Shan could tell that Manager Li was the one who ordered people to drag the corpses. It seemed like he represented absolute power in this slaughterhouse. Zhang Xiaoyun, right? I have something to tell you. Please go ahead, Sir Manager. This place might be a slaughterhouse, but you can't let your guard down when you work. Many of the monsters are crippled, but their bodies alone are still extremely dangerous. Thank you, sir, for your advice. But most importantly, if you pay the price, I will make your life easier for the next 5 days. Gu Shan was a bit surprised. If I may ask, sir, what do you mean by easier? Manager Li was a bit impatient. This brat looks so smart. Why is he so hard to communicate with? He patiently explained, for example, killing fewer monsters and having more time to rest. As long as you give me enough spirit stones, I can even allow you to cultivate in seclusion here for 5 days. You won't even need to touch a single desolate monster, and you can leave immediately after a bit of silence. Gu Shan slowly smiled. Sir, if that's the case, then I won't give you a single spirit stone. The room went silent. Manager Li scowled, then smiled and sighed. Young people really are full of fantasies about the world. All right, you may leave and wait for your orders. Yes, sir. Gu Shan clasped his fist and left the room. He didn't have to wait for too long before 2 tall cultivators came up to him. They stared at Gu Shan without any expression on their faces. Zhang Xiaoyun? That's me. Come with us, all right. The 2 of them led Gu Shan through the blood-stained fences and slaughterhouses, walking for a while before they reached an underground prison. The 2 cultivators pulled open the heavy metal door, then used their badge to clean up the prison for a while before they undid the defensive formations. A demonic red light emerged from the ground. This was a blood light so thick that it couldn't be dispelled. Because it contained some sort of strange power, it lingered in the air for a very long time without dispersing. The 2 cultivators both showed serious expressions. All right, Zhang Xiaoyun, you may leave, one of them said. Your workplace is below. You may come out again in 5 days, the other cultivator said. All right, Gu Shan walked down the stairs. Creak, creak. The metal door closed behind him. Following that, the layers of defensive formations were activated again. The underground prison was once again sealed off. The 2 cultivators stood at the door and let out a long breath at the same time. Another one died, one of them said. It's fine. The superiors all know how dangerous slaughterhouses are. 1 or 2 deaths won't draw any attention, the other cultivator said. That brat was also stupid. Couldn't he have just paid a bit of respect to the manager? Why did he care so much about that bit of spirit stones? Then he pissed off the manager and was sent to this most dangerous of slaughterhouses. That's true. Even if he didn't pay, at least he wouldn't go against the superiors. That way, after killing 10 monsters a day, he'd be able to rest. All right, let's not talk about it anymore. After all, this brat is locked up in this prison. He'll have to face all the monsters here, including some that we can't kill. There's no need to think about his fate. They shook their heads, sighed, and slowly walked away. At another location, Gu Shan stood in the darkness, silently sensing his surroundings with his eyes closed. This place didn't forbid cultivators from using inner sight. This was probably the best defensive measure the entire underground prison had to offer. With Gu Shan's inner sight, he found that the entire underground prison had a total of 18 floors. The further down he went, the fewer monsters there were, but the stronger they were. Shanu appeared from the void of space behind him and lightly landed in front of him. Gongzi, that person was against you, she complained. It's fine. A person without principles like him deserves our gratitude, Gu Shan replied. Are we really going to kill monsters now? Shanu asked. Yes, that's my goal. Gu Shan smiled and walked forward. The tunnel was dim and narrow. Other than the fences on both sides, there was almost nothing else. Gu Shan walked up to the first fence and looked inside. Chapter 814. Inside the bars, crimson blood was dripping from the demon restraining rope. The demon restraining rope was as thick as an arm, engraved with countless restraining runes, completely black in color. The monster was occasionally howling and struggling, dragging the demon restraining rope along with the monster's movements to hit the wall, giving off a heavy metallic sound. But the demon restraining rope had already pierced through the monster's body, tightly binding it to the wall, while the other end of the rope pierced deep into the underground prison wall. Gu Qingshan looked at the monster. A human? That was the first thought he had. But when he took a closer look, it wasn't. Compared to a human, this monster had no skin. Red muscles were exposed. Occasionally white bones could be seen. A pair of vertical pupils. A mouth full of long, sharp teeth. A mouth that stretched all the way to the bottom of its ears. No eyes. Gu Qingshan looked at the monster and fell into thought. Unlike the desolate demon eye, this monster was clearly more human-like. Roar! The monster roared in a frenzy towards Gu Qingshan. The Chao Yin sword flashed. The monster's head was decapitated. The sound was immediately silenced. Sensing the monster's death, the demon restraining rope separated from the monster's body. Gu Qingshan jumped over the bars and began to dismember the monster. This monster's blood seemed to contain some sort of corrosive liquid. The Chaoyin sword let out a slight woo-woo sound. Gu Qingshan heard it right away. He decided not to use his sword and directly activated the sword chi in his eyes, manifesting it as sharp sword chi in the void of space, and began to cut open the monster's body layer by layer. A sharp sword chi cut open the monster's abdomen, followed a straight line upwards until the entire chest cavity was cut open. The monster's chest cavity was smooth and flat, occasionally moving a bit to form wrinkles that quickly disappeared. No organs? Gu Qingshan was a bit confused. His gaze fell onto his finger. A small cut appeared on his finger. Gu Qingshan squeezed out a drop of his own blood and dripped it into the monster's chest cavity. In a split second, the monster's chest cavity began to move like crazy. If the monster's head hadn't fallen off, Gu Qingshan would have thought that the monster would come back to life. Looks like the entire chest cavity and abdominal cavity are digestive organs. This is completely different from humans. Gu Qingshan muttered. Unconsciously, Gu Qingshan heaved a sigh of relief. The next step was easy. Gu Qingshan casually stacked the monster's body neatly together. He walked back to the fence and activated the formation that he had set up earlier. The monster's corpse was immediately teleported out. The first monster was slaughtered. Gu Qingshan walked to the next fence. There was still a monster trapped inside, but it was no longer humanoid. Instead, it was a body made up of 16 connected heads. It would be difficult for cultivators to eat this kind of thing, Gu Qingshan thought as she looked at him. Streaks of arc-shaped sword shadows shot out from his eyes, slashing through the air and slicing the monsters into pieces. He activated the teleportation circle again. The monster's corpse disappeared without a trace. Gu Qingshan looked at the war god UI. His soul points had increased quite a bit. Seems like according to the war god UI standard, the monsters of this first floor aren't any weaker than Gu Qingshan. There were a total of 18 floors in this underground prison. What kind of monsters would be down there? Gu Qingshan looked at the thaumaturgy quest again. Below the thaumaturgy quest, there was a number 2. This means I've killed 2 monsters. 98 monsters left. I can activate my new thaumaturgy. Gu Qingshan walked to the third fence. About half an incense's worth of time later, the 35 monsters on the first floor were cleanly dissected by Gu Qingshan. He stood at the entrance to the next floor. There was a strange spell formation here that only allowed humans to pass through, and no other beings were allowed to pass through. Although he had 5 days, only the soul points he obtained was the most reliable soul points, and only the quest he completed was the perfect quest. Gu Qingshan didn't waste any time and went straight through the entrance. The monsters on this floor were still the same. They might have been very powerful at their peak, but now they were nothing but waiting to be slaughtered. 21 monsters were carefully and seriously slaughtered by Gu Qingshan. The third floor, it wasn't until the 9th floor that Gu Qingshan stopped. Although there were only 9 monsters here, They were clearly a lot stronger than before. Gu Shan used Iris Sword. The sword chi only left a white mark on the monster's body, and even the white mark quickly disappeared. If these monsters were at their peak, a single one of them would be enough to chase after Gu Shan. Looking at the tied-up monster, Gu Shan used Heart Sword at full power. The monster trembled, then froze in place. Heart Sword had destroyed the monster's consciousness. The Chowing sword lightly swung. The monster's head fell. The dissection continued. His soul points continued to grow. The quest continued to be completed. The 10th floor, the 11th floor, the 12th floor. The further down he went, the quieter it became. When the monsters saw him, they no longer roared or screamed in desire. At the 13th floor, the 3 desolate monsters here only silently stared at Gu Shan, as if evaluating him. This place was completely different from the previous underground prison. Blood that came from an unknown place was flowing on the ground, enough to cover a person's knees. This place wasn't very spacious. The entire floor and every wall was engraved with runes and formations. 7 or 8 demon-trapping chains pierced through the bodies of the 3 monsters at the same time and tied them to the wall. The entire 13th floor was a large-scale imprisonment formation. These 3 monsters had humanoid shapes, but they had a sharp horn on their head. Their faces were devoid of any muscles. Their bones were completely exposed. Gu Shan stood in the air. He swung the Chowing sword with all his strength. 7 to 8 cold, gleaming sword phantoms flew out and slashed the neck of one of the monsters. The sword phantoms disappeared. There wasn't even a white mark left on the monster's neck. Gu Shan didn't give up and used Water Flow Severance, Crescent Slash, 7 Stars Flowing Dragon, Drawn Shadow, Swallow Returns, Torrent, Silver Star, and Life Seeker to attack the monster. The 8 secret arts all struck the monster's body, causing it to let out a low grunt. Ah! The monster's body slightly trembled. A faint white mark finally appeared on its body. This white mark only lasted for the blink of an eye before disappearing without a trace. Gu Shan shook his head and put his sword away. With my cryptic realm cultivation, I can only make it to the 13th floor. If these 3 monsters were in perfect condition, they would most likely be able to turn the world upside down in the outside world. I can't imagine how powerful a cultivator would have to be able to capture them. Gu Hong should be able to. Gu Shan silently thought. He sat down cross-legged in the air and began to meditate. At this point, he had collected a huge amount of soul points, at least 1 million. Spending a bit of soul points, Gu Shan comprehended the cryptic realm scripture. His breakthrough began. He stood in the middle of the 13th floor of the prison, hovering above the blood tide, facing the 3 terrifying desolate monsters, and began to break through a minor realm. Time slowly passed. An incense stick's worth of time later, he opened his eyes. Cryptic middle stage was achieved. Because he had killed over 100 desolate monsters, his thaumaturgy quest had also been completed. Lines of glowing text were showing up on the War God UI. You've completed the thaumaturgy quest. Lightning of Life. You may now awaken the 4th level of the lightning thaumaturgy. Dream Jolt. Dream Jolt. When touched by your lightning spirit energy, the target's consciousness will enter a brief dreamscape with the lightning, causing them to lose control of their body until 5 seconds later. Description: this is the advanced thaumaturgy of the triple-layered lightning of life, lost control, paralysis, and severance. No living being is immune to it. Gu Shan read through the glowing text in front of him and sighed deeply. He felt a sense of satisfaction. To complete this thaumaturgy quest, under normal circumstances, I'll have to slowly kill them on the battlefield. I don't even know when I'll be able to complete it. It's all thanks to this slaughterhouse that I was able to obtain such a powerful thaumaturgy. However, speaking of slaughterhouses, Gu Shan was full of questions. Starting from the 1st floor, Gu Shan felt that this place was most likely used for sealing. Because they couldn't be killed, they were sealed. In fact, Gu Shan had already noticed this on the 12th floor. When the 5 monsters on the 12th floor were attacked, a twisted mark would automatically appear on their bodies. The Chowing sword couldn't pierce through that mark at all. Gu Shan had to rely on the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword's anti-magic thaumaturgy to kill those 5 monsters. When they died, they looked like they couldn't believe their eyes. They couldn't believe that they were killed. But now, on the 13th floor, even the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword couldn't pierce through the thick defensive barrier on the surface of those monsters' bodies. This was pure power suppression, which meant that they were countless times stronger than Gu Shan. Gu Shan also realized this and gave up on killing those monsters. But he quickly realized something else. This was only the 13th floor, and there were a total of 18 floors here. I really can't imagine what kind of desolate monsters are sealed on the 18th floor. Gu Shan shook his head and sighed. Suddenly, a voice resounded in his ears. How interesting, this little guy killed his way down here. Gu Shan froze. He tried his best to keep his expression unchanged, lowered his eyes, and pretended to be in thought, as if he didn't hear this voice at all. Another voice spoke up. We eat them, they also eat us, that's fair. Following that, another voice spoke up. Because you weren't eaten, you think it's fair. The 3 trapped monsters on the wall began to whisper to each other. Chapter 8:15. The monsters were whispering to each other. Listening to their conversation, Gu Shan suddenly realized something. The monsters didn't think that he could understand their conversation. After all, in the age of old, no cultivator could communicate with these monsters, and no one could understand their language. But when Gu Shan was fighting for the 3 desolate divine armaments, Little She gave him a lapis language card that recorded the desolate language. According to Little She, this was the common language used by the divinities and monsters in the age of old. It had already been abandoned by the divinities, but because she was a powerful weapon of the divinities and had to fight against the desolate monsters as a main force, the divinities gave her this language. No human had ever understood this language. Gu Shan's mind moved quickly. He simply maintained his cross-legged posture and quietly floated in the air without moving. Unfortunately, the monsters only said a few words before going silent. The 13th floor of the underground prison quickly returned to silence. Only the blood that covered the entire floor, almost up to his knees, continued to flow down. Splash, splash, splash. Like a tidal wave, the blood flowed rhythmically. Gu Shan waited for a while longer. The 3 powerful desolate monsters still didn't seem to want to say anything. Gu Shan felt like he was being scratched by a cat. Why aren't the 3 monsters talking? Can't they just casually chat about something? Even the most insignificant of conversations can help Gu Shan understand them a bit better. Time slowly passed. The monsters still didn't say anything. Gu Shan's thoughts slowly came to a halt. He suddenly opened his eyes and curiously looked at the ground. Strange, where did all this blood come from? Even the formation leading to the next floor is covered in it. How troublesome. While talking, Gu Shan formed a hand seal to draw the blood from the void of space into the air, slowly forming a giant ball of blood. All the blood on the ground was absorbed by the spell, revealing the formation leading to the next floor. Countless runes covered the entire formation. The spirit stones were also embedded in the grooves. As long as he went down and activated the formation, Gu Shan would be able to enter the next floor. He looked at the formation, then at the giant ball of blood in the air, as if he was considering whether he should go down. Suddenly, a low scream came from underground. The sound was clearly coming from deep underground. Following that, new blood started to seep out of the ground. The blood quietly covered the ground, then began to rise, finally forming a knee-deep pool of blood. Gu Shan muttered to herself, "How strange! Should I collect it again?" Suddenly, the 3 monsters on the wall began to move. They moved their bodies restlessly. The conversation finally started again. "This fool, we can't let him provoke that existence below again," one of the monsters muttered. Its tone was filled with panic and urgency. The other monster hurriedly said, "Why don't we tell him that he absolutely cannot provoke the existence down there?" The third monster seemed to be the leader. It roared, "You 2 idiots! No matter how simple their language is, we can't talk to them. This is an agreement." The first monster said, "If we can't violate the agreement, why don't we roar and struggle to distract him?" Got it. The third monster immediately replied. A second later, they roared in unison as they struggled against the wall, as if wanting to take Gu Qingshan's life. Gu Qingshan was clearly shocked, so much so that he even loosened his spell in panic. As his hand tilted, the giant ball of blood in the air suddenly tilted and flew away. Coincidentally, the giant ball of blood flew straight into a desolate monster's body. The desolate monster was stunned for a split second, then abruptly roared in agony. This time, its roar shook the entire realm, bringing with it an unprecedented despair. It struggled with everything it had. The entire wall was shaking from its struggle. All the defensive runes of the 13th floor's prison were activated, giving off blinding light. The monster was pinned against the wall by an invisible force. It suddenly spoke in desolate language. "No, sir, you cannot eat me. I am your loyal servant." Another hoarse voice resounded from deep underground. "Use your flesh and soul to kill time for me." A split second later, the blood on the monster's body all seeped into its body. The monster immediately stopped struggling. It was dead. The 7 to 8 demon restraining chains on its body were loosened. The monster's body fell into the pool of blood, quickly turned into a black lump of blood, and slowly disappeared. A faint whirlpool slowly formed on the surface of the pool of blood, as if something was being transported into the depths of the earth through the pool of blood. A faint murmur of satisfaction resounded from the depths of the earth. Then everything returned to silence. The two monsters on the wall also stopped struggling. They simply climbed as high as they could to distance themselves from the pool of blood, then stopped moving like statues, not making a single sound. Gu Qingshan looked at the pool of blood with a cautious gaze. When he first arrived on this floor, out of caution, he didn't touch the pool of blood. But from the looks of it, as soon as he came into contact with this pool of blood, the only outcome would be death. Even the monsters on the 13th floor that he couldn't even injure with his full strength would suffer the same fate. Gu Qingshan silently hovered in the air, seemingly stunned by what happened just now. He quickly thought about it. They think human language is very simple. Because they can't break the agreement, they don't talk to me. This can easily lead to a conclusion. The desolate monsters understand human language, but they've been pretending not to understand it. Then what's the agreement? Who made the agreement with whom? As Gu Qingshan followed this train of thought, he couldn't help but feel an unprecedented chill in his heart. On another side, two enforcer cultivators brought Gu Qingshan into the underground prison, closed the door, and followed Manager Li's orders to make arrangements for everyone else. About half an hour later, the two of them went to report to Manager Li. "Sir, today's work has been arranged according to your orders," one of the enforcer cultivators reported. "Report to me," Manager Li ordered. The other cultivator took out a jade slip, held it in his hand, and reported it one by one. Manager Li couldn't help but nod as he listened. After a while, he suddenly cut him off. "The 9th Reserve Camp's cook didn't bring enough spirit stones today. Have him kill a few more monsters today. Understood. This subordinate will do so shortly," the enforcer cultivator replied. The report continued. A while later, everything was finally reported. Steward Li was about to wave his hand to dismiss everyone when he suddenly recalled something. "Right. Where's the brat from the 23rd Reserve Camp? We've followed your orders and threw him into the underground prison," one of the enforcer cultivators replied. Manager Li sat behind the table, lightly stroking an ornament made from spirit jade, and lazily asked, "Did he show any signs of regret?" "He did not, sir. He was just a hothead. He didn't say a single word along the way and went straight into the underground prison as we ordered," the enforcer cultivator replied. Manager Li thought for a bit, then asked the other cultivator next to him, "Did you find out? What's that brat's background?" The cultivator replied, "Sir, Zhang Xiao Yun is a loose cultivator. His family has been in charge of spirit cooking for generations. During the last monster invasion, his entire family died, leaving him as the only survivor. So he came to join the army." Manager Li's frown loosened a bit. "HM, if that's the case, I'll send him to meet his family. That way he could be reunited with them." "Ahaha. You're right, sir. That's how it should be." While they were talking, The door to the barracks opened by itself as a fully armored cultivator flew in. Manager Lee immediately stood up, his expression changing. "General Wong, why did you come here yourself?" Boom! The ground suddenly shook. Then, a roar filled with fear rang out from the depths of the earth. Everyone's expressions changed again. From the direction the sound came from, it was the slaughterhouse's underground prison, because there were some extremely powerful monsters that could only be captured but not killed. This underground prison was built. Ever since the slaughterhouse was established, it had always followed the orders of the higher-ups to lock up certain vicious monsters in this prison. Nothing had ever happened in this prison before. General Wong expressionlessly looked at everyone and asked, "Who's in the sealed prison?" Steward Lee stammered, A cook who just arrived. Name, cultivation, where did he come from?" General Wong continued, "Zhang Xiaoyun, Golden Core Realm, 23rd Reserve Camp. A Golden Core Realm cultivator can go to that kind of place? Doesn't that place forbid anyone from going in? Why exactly did you let him in?" General Wong's tone became stern. Manager Lee's forehead was covered in sweat, unable to say a single word. Sir, he picked up an inventory bag, smiled, and was about to shove it into General Wong's hand. Poof, 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 poof. A series of holy light erupted from the cultivators' bodies. In just a few moments, all of them were turned to ash. Manager Lee was shocked. Regardless of what kind of person they are, to be sent to manage a place like this, they must have the most basic level of knowledge. Manager Lee suddenly screamed, "General Wong, no, divinity above, poof!" Holy flames surged out of his body and burned him to ashes in an instant. All the cultivators in the barracks were burned to ashes. Not a single person was left alive. General Wong stood still without moving. There was a gray flame burning and throbbing between his eyebrows. Humph, greed. No wonder they let people in. General Wong turned around and looked at a certain direction outside the door. The underground prison has quite a few dead. Seems like I'll have to take a look myself. Chapter 816. At the entrance of the underground prison, General Wong had already retracted the flames on his forehead. The metal door of the underground prison was blown open by him. The layers of defensive formations were erased with a single formation plate. General Wong stepped into the darkness and headed deeper into the underground. The first floor of the underground prison. All the monsters had already been slaughtered. The corpses of the monsters were transported to an unknown location by the formation. General Wong carefully observed the empty first floor of the underground prison and scowled. Who exactly was that person? Which floor did he kill his way to? Regardless of what happens, I can't afford to anger that person, otherwise the consequences will be unimaginable. General Wong took a deep breath and stood on the formation leading to the second floor. This was where the desolate monsters were kept, so even he could only teleport himself down one floor at a time. The second floor, the third floor, all the way to the 13th floor. General Wong looked down at the flowing blood below with a hint of fear in his eyes. The flow of blood was very calm, meaning that starting from the next floor, nothing had been destroyed. That's good. General Wong heaved a long sigh of relief. Wielder of the Door of Desolation Fragment, descendant of the Desolate Guardian, ruler of the southern ancient lands. General Wong's voice stopped. He slowly turned around and looked at the wall. The two surviving horned humanoid monsters on the wall didn't dare to move at all. But on the wall across from them, on top of a small hole in the wall, there was a gray, slimy mollusk. Although this insect was only the size of a fingernail. How did it survive here? And how did it escape the detection of a divinity? General Wong went silent briefly before releasing his inner sight. Bam! As soon as the slimy thing was touched by General Wong's inner sight, it instantly died. General Wong was a bit surprised. Regardless of whether this insect was originally here or was purposely placed here, it was already dead. Ignoring this small matter, General Wong continued his previous topic. "Did what happened here disturb your rest?" he asked. A while later, a hoarse voice came from deep within the blood. "I'm very safe here. If you bugs didn't disturb this king's rest, I would be able to rest even better," General Wang was surprised. Bugs, he muttered. That's right, the hoarse voice mocked him. What a pitiful bug! Daring to call itself a divinity, General Wang's face gradually became gloomy. He slowly said, There's a strange thing. Their master ordered them to guard the house well. But in the end, they disobeyed their master's will and began to eat their master's descendants. What do you think will happen to them if their master found out about this evil behavior? We don't have a master, the roaring voice became angry. Humanity hasn't returned from the reality gate for over 100 million years, and do you want to become my food as well? Seeing that he had successfully enraged the other party, General Wang revealed a gleeful smile. He calmly replied, No, of course not. I will only continue to help you eat your master's descendants, as long as you do not forget our agreement. The hoarse voice was silent for a while before it said in confusion, I really don't understand. You guys who call yourselves gods, why do you want to imitate the form of humans? Why are you so obsessed with that door? Its voice suddenly carried a hint of sinister laughter. Could it be to avoid us? General Wang's gaze became extremely gloomy. We've traveled to every world and reached the ends of the world, but we've never been able to find a new shore. So we need you to follow our agreement and reopen the desolate gate so that we can go in and see what's inside, the hoarse voice mocked. Fools! Even our former master had already disappeared from that door for over 100 million years, and stinky bugs like you still dare to peek into that place? General Wang insisted. We have an agreement between us. If we go against our agreement, even your king wouldn't be able to get away scot-free. Once you've truly completed your task according to our agreement, we will naturally let you in, the hoarse voice scoffed. General Wang raised his voice. We've already done it. You're currently devouring humanity without restraint, the hoarse voice shouted. No, there's still the order. The most terrifying thing isn't the descendants of humanity, but the order passed down from generation to generation. Once humanity has an order, they will become incredibly powerful. You still haven't dealt with this crucial matter. That's not a problem, Southern Ancient Lord. We have a way to deal with the order. What way? We will calculate the power required for each order and release the Demon King order. First, the Demon King order. Indeed, this is the most terrifying order. It enslaves all living beings and devours countless humans until it finally gives birth to a true Demon King. We cannot allow them to give birth to a Demon King. Of course not. We will become the gods of humanity, while the evil and terror of the Demon King order will prove to humanity that the order is something they should abandon. General Wang excitedly continued. As long as you can help us and guarantee that the first order to awaken will be the Demon King order, there won't be any issues. Even if we don't do anything, humanity will still fear this most extreme order. Not to mention, us divinities will lead humanity to fight against the Demon King order. The hoarse voice fell silent. After a while, it tiredly spoke. Let's hope so. Go back first. I need to report to Father and discuss how to make the Demon King order be the first to awaken, General Wang muttered. Once we can do that, you will have to reconstruct that door and let us in to take a look, of course, as long as you can stop humanity from combining with the order, the hoarse voice replied. Hearing that, General Wang slowly smiled. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll be on my way, he said. Go. Don't come back if there's nothing else, the hoarse voice said. General Wang turned around, about to fly up. He suddenly stopped and asked, That person, did you eat him? What? The hoarse voice asked in irritation. Without waiting for General Wang to say anything else, it answered, Yes, I ate one of my subordinates. You don't need to worry about such a small matter. General Wang hesitated for a bit, but still insisted on asking. I'm not talking about your subordinate. I'm talking about the human who came down just now, the hoarse voice asked. He just came up from here. Did you not kill him? General Wang's expression changed. He disappeared from his place. But very quickly, he reappeared, grabbing the slimy bug on the wall in his hand. The bug was already dead. As soon as he grabbed it, it turned into a blob of disgusting mucus. General Wang froze. It's not this thing, he mused. I came down too quickly just now, so I didn't take a good look at each floor, but I couldn't just ignore a single human. As he spoke, A vast gray flame soared from his body. You think you can fool me? That's interesting. He disappeared from this floor again. At another location, outside the slaughterhouse, in a dense thicket, Gu Shan was hiding here. Indeed, when the divinity entered the underground prison floor by floor, he had actually turned into an ant, hiding in a gap between the bars of the fifth floor. As soon as the divinity teleported down from the fifth floor, Gu Shan immediately left this place. When he came out from the underground prison, the entire slaughterhouse was in chaos. Manager Li and a few of his subordinates were all dead. The enforcer cultivators were all rushing towards the manager's room. Gu Shan silently made his way through the crowd, chose a secluded exit, and silently left. He didn't go too far. If I'm too far away, that slug won't work. He recalled the advice of the old man from the Spirekeeper Association. This is a good thing, much more powerful than normal eavesdropping bugs. Normal eavesdropping bugs are easy to discover, and the angered person who's being eavesdropped would usually stomp the bug to death, and this slug might look alive, but it's actually just a small bionic mechanism. Only when someone stomps it to death would its eavesdropping function be activated. This slug was given to him by the old man from the Spirekeeper Association when he went to a bull, and now it finally came in handy. He silently listened to the conversation within the slug. It wasn't until the two extremely powerful entities began to negotiate about his life and death that he took out a formation plate. The formation plate was activated. Gu Shan disappeared, several thousand miles away in an endless barren mountain range. Gu Shan's figure appeared on top of an open hill. This was where he faced his tribulation. Ever since the drifting sand world, he had consciously set up a teleportation formation to escape. And now, the formation had once again brought him far away from the danger of death. Gu Shan stood still and sighed. Searching for information about divinities and desolate monsters was an extremely dangerous thing to do. Chapter 817. A communication talisman appeared in Gu Shan's hand. He carefully explained everything into the talisman, then infused it with spirit energy to send the talisman to the sky. This is an urgent matter. I have to let Shifu know right away. The talisman turned into a streak of flame and flew away. Not too long later, a black dot appeared in the sky. In the blink of an eye, the black dot disappeared. Xie Guhong was already standing in front of Gu Shan. There were 7 swords hovering behind his back. He was wearing a set of armor that was stained with blood. From the looks of it, he seemed to have rushed here from the battlefield. Xie Guhong observed Gu Shan with an emotional gaze. Shifu, everything I said in the talisman was true, Gu Shan said. I know, Xie Guhong replied. Seeing how calm he was, Gu Shan suddenly asked, So you already knew? Xie Guhong nodded, turned around, and walked towards the cliff in front of the mountain. Looking at the vast mountain range, he sighed. For the sake of our own survival, for the sake of serving the divinities, humanity has been fighting on the front lines against the desolate monsters. This situation has been going on for so many years, but the war has never stopped, which made us suspicious. Who would have thought? The information that we paid such a heavy price to obtain was so easily obtained by you. Not to mention that your information was even clearer and more complete than what we knew. Xie Guhong turned around and looked at Gu Shan with a look of admiration and emotion. Shan, this place can no longer exist. You have to remember what I'm about to say, Shifu. Gu Shan didn't quite understand. Xie Guhong continued. We could faintly sense the truth of the matter, but we couldn't confirm whether or not it was the truth. So before the Age of Old was destroyed, we made preparations for both scenarios. Hearing this, Gu Shan's eyebrows twitched. Xie Guhong said before the Age of Old was destroyed. If that's the case, could it be that he had already escaped from this phantom image and saw the true end of history? When Gu Shan was about to say something, Xie Guhong waved his hand to stop her. There's not much time left. We have to hurry. At this time, far away from the mountains, the sky suddenly opened, and a vast voice spread throughout the entire world. The human cultivator Zhang Xiao Yun has betrayed the divinities and defected to the desolate world. He is an unpardonable villain. All great cultivators are to immediately find and kill this person. Anyone who hears this, come here immediately. I will personally supervise this matter." Xie Guhong looked away and shook his head. He continued, "Listen, Qing Shan, the current situation is dire. Not only are the divinities searching for you, even an entity from another space-time has infiltrated the barren cloud heavenly palace. So you can't go anywhere." When Gu Qingshan was about to say something, Xie Guhong stopped him again. In the distance, the voice of the god sounded again. "All high-grade cultivators, come quickly." One after another, streams of light flew toward the location of the gods. Xie Guhong ignored the summoning of the divinity and instead waved his hand to arrange a soundproof formation. His voice was becoming faster and faster. During the final years of the Age of Old, humanity's only immortal king had prepared a certain method in advance. With the help of all of us cultivators, we managed to successfully trigger the space-time phantom image illusion right before the primordial heaven realm was destroyed as time passed. This phantom image illusion would split into countless numbers, specifically used to confuse the divinities and desolate monsters. The divinities and monsters might be able to notice these phantom images, but the endless phantom images made it impossible for them to understand what we were doing at the very last moment before our deaths. Qing Shan, you must follow a certain secret sequence within these countless phantom images to reach the final location. Xie Guhong paused for a bit as his expression became extremely solemn. "We have hidden the final moment of the Age of Old within the countless phantom images. You must find it. Once you find it, you will have truly returned to the moment when humanity was destroyed in the Age of Old." Gu Qingshan finally couldn't help but ask, "What am I going to do at that moment?" Xie Guhong silently looked at him for a long while before answering. "The Heaven Sword was only forged at the very last moment of humanity's destruction. You must take it with you, Shifu. You carry the real Earth Sword on you. I can sense it." Xie Guhong took out a jade disc from his chest pocket and put it in Gu Qingshan's hand. Gu Qingshan looked down. The jade disc felt warm in his hand, as if it contained an immeasurable amount of power. A number was carved on the surface of the jade disc. "Gone 9, Xie Guhong explained. "Among the countless phantom images, only this jade disc will be able to bring you to the next unique phantom image. You must survive that phantom image and obtain the next jade disc, all the way until the very last moment of the Age of Old to take the Heaven Sword." Gu Qingshan held the jade disc in his hand, unable to say anything. Despite being surrounded by the divinities and monsters, at the very last moment of destruction, humanity was still able to come up with such a method to pass on their hope. He clenched his teeth and held the jade disc tightly. "Shifu, then are you a phantom image, or I'm a fragment of my soul that I left behind before my death, waiting for this moment for countless years?" Xie Guhong's figure slowly faded away. "I will bring this phantom image with me to destruction, erasing all traces of you, not letting any entity discover you." He smiled at the end. "Being able to take in a disciple like you is truly a great comfort. I hope that you will be able to accomplish what my generation couldn't." Bam. Xie Guhong's figure scattered into countless fragments, then turned back into a cloud of mist. The entire world turned into an illusory image that slowly faded away. The jade disc in Gu Qingshan's hand suddenly lit up. It was giving off a blinking light, as if calling out to something. The disciple jade disc that Gu Qingshan obtained from the spirit tortoise suddenly jumped out from her chest pocket and combined with the jade disc that Xie Guhong gave her. The two jade discs combined into one, giving off a 7-colored light that enveloped Gu Qingshan. The jade disc chose a direction and brought Gu Qingshan through the endless mist, quickly disappearing without a trace. Let's rewind time a bit. At another location, barren Cloud Master Peak, a cultivator silently appeared from below the ground. He silently went through all the defensive formations and directly entered the Master Peak. No one noticed this. He looked around and saw the mountain valley. According to the information I received just now, Gu Qingshan should still be cultivating in the Sword Abyss. He muttered in a low voice. Noticing that something wasn't right, the cultivator closed his eyes and carefully sensed his surroundings. Everything was normal. He was a bit doubtful, but quickly calmed down and quickly walked towards a mountain valley. While walking, he was constantly changing his appearance. When he stood in front of the mountain valley, he had returned to his original appearance. A flame of light was burning between his eyebrows. His entire body was shrouded in glorious light. After traveling for a long time, he had finally arrived here. This divinity reached his hand out and lightly touched the void of space. Bam! The defensive formations around the mountain valley were instantly destroyed. No one would be able to stop him from flying down and killing Gu Shan. At this point, a figure flew up from below the mountain valley and looked at him in shock. Gu Shan. Gu Shan had appeared. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" Gu Shan asked. The divinity looked at him and couldn't help but smirk. "Gu Shan, everything about you is coming to an end. The future will no longer change because of you," the divinity solemnly declared. He raised his hand. Just as he was about to act, the entire world began to spin. Gu Shan's figure turned into a mass of white fog. Following that, the entire world turned into fog and disappeared from the divinity's sight. The phantom world of the age of old had disappeared. The divinity didn't panic and simply stood in the middle of the boundless void, silently contemplating. Why would the world disappear at a time like this? Where exactly did Gu Shan go? While he was thinking, a figure of light manifested from the void of space. "Who are you?" the divinity shouted. "Sensing my presence, do you still not know who I am?" The figure of light replied. "You are the consciousness of our race," the divinity replied. "Indeed, I've waited here for far too many years for this day to finally arrive," the figure of light replied. "What are you waiting for?" the divinity asked. "Waiting for a member of our race to arrive. At the very last moment of the age of old, humanity left behind countless phantom images. We don't know what they did, but they released a kind of omen right before their death that caused us to be in a state of unease." The divinity stayed silent for a bit, then replied, "I know what they left behind then, that's good." The figure of light tossed a coin to him. "Go, this desolate coin is the real deal. It will help you sense your target's location. The only problem is that there's a chance for the location to deviate." The divinity received the desolate coin and carefully observed it. It's indeed the real deal," he muttered. Putting the coin away, the divinity smiled again. "It doesn't matter if there's a deviation. As long as we can find him, he won't be able to escape death." Chapter 8:18. Darkness. In the silent darkness, Gu Shan opened his eyes. He saw a man crouching down in front of him. It was an old face. Time has left too many marks on this face, making it hard for anyone to not wonder just how much hardship the owner of this face had to go through. The old man put his index finger on his lips, gesturing for him to keep quiet. Gu Shan cooperated and remained silent, not making any movements or saying anything. The spirit tortoise and Xie Gu Hong's jade disc brought him here, so he had the most basic level of trust in the environment in front of him. He looked at the other party and sent his voice through inner sight. "May I ask who you are?" "Let's go out first before we talk." The old man also sent his voice. Gu Shan looked around and found that he was lying in the middle of a military camp. Everyone in the camp had fallen into a deep sleep. Only the old man in front of him was staring at him with bright, piercing eyes. This old man seemed to have been waiting for him to come. Gu Shan followed the old man out of the camp one after the other. Under the dim light of night, the two of them were quickly flying through a forest. "Where are we going?" Gu Shan asked through inner sight. "We're leaving this camp. We need to hurry," the old man replied. "All right, you go ahead. I'll follow you," Gu Shan said. As soon as he said so, the old man flew in front of him and led the way. Gu Shan's frown loosened a bit. He could sense an irresistible spirit pressure from the old man, almost the same as Xie Gu Hong. In other words, this was a great cultivator from the age of old. The two of them continued flying. About half an incense's worth of time later, the two of them finally made it through countless forests, mountains, and finally arrived at the seaside. The ocean was vast. The waves were undulating. The moon rose above the sea, leaving a layer of white frost on the surface of the sea, which was then shattered by the ripples of the water. The old man tapped his inventory bag and took out an airship. "Take it," he finally spoke up. "What are you?" Gu Qingshan was confused. "This flying boat can fly in the sky, float on the sea, and even travel through the bottom of the sea. It is equipped with 36 different concealment formations. As long as the spirit stones don't run out, it will be enough to guarantee that you won't be discovered for a short period of time," the old man said. "On the flying ship, there are countless great cultivators' insights and cultivation methods. You can learn from them." Gu Qingshan asked, "But why should I hide in the sea?" The old man replied, "Because this is a phantom image that we meticulously designed. It recorded the darkest and most despairing period of the war between humanity and the desolate monsters. In the next few months, the entire human race will be in a state of gradual destruction. The divinities are currently keeping an eye on the human race, so they won't easily go to the sea. So, as long as you stay away from land and try to be as careful as possible, there won't be too much of a problem." The old man took out another jade disc and gave it to Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan took it and looked at it. There were 2 words engraved on the jade plate: Kunlu. The jade plate seemed to have sensed something and abruptly flew into Gu Qingshan's chest. Gu Qingshan hurriedly grabbed it. This jade plate had already fused with the other 2 jade plates in his chest, giving off a faint glow. He now had the disciple, Qianjiu, and Kunlu jade plates. Gu Qingshan couldn't believe that he was able to obtain this jade plate so easily. Seeing his expression, the old man quickly understood what he was thinking. The old man explained, "In the age of old, we used divination to predict a single thing. That is, if someone managed to pass through the spirit tortoise and Xie Guhong's trial, they would definitely run into a dangerous assassination attempt. For this reason, we designed this phantom image of the age of old. During this period of time, the entire human race of the world is in a state of destruction. While you are hidden in the sea by us, no one would be able to find out about your existence. The only thing you need to do is to desperately increase your cultivation. Only then will you be able to survive the next phantom image. You need to at least reach Radiant Soul Realm for your Jade Plate to activate and take you to the next phantom image: Cryptic, Chaotic Star, Origin Return, Radiant Soul." Gu Qingshan muttered, then couldn't help but ask, "What if I haven't reached Radiant Soul Realm?" The old man shook his head. "If you haven't reached Radiant Soul Realm, you won't be able to survive the next phantom image. The only thing you can do is stay in this world, either break through or be discovered and killed by the divinities or desolate monsters." Gu Qingshan sighed. "I will do my best to increase my cultivation." The old man nodded and quickly formed a series of complicated hand seals with both hands. "It's fortunate that you haven't talked to anyone. This way, I would be able to perfectly conceal your traces in this world," he said. "There's such a technique? Not even the divinities or desolate monsters can find me?" Gu Qingshan asked. The old man continued to form the hand seals and replied, "Indeed, this technique is called Soul Retreat. We've already used various methods to verify it to ensure that we won't be exposed. Only a cultivator with the heaven and earth evasion thaumaturgy like myself would be able to use Soul Retreat to its fullest extent by burning my life force and soul." Gu Qingshan asked, "With such a thaumaturgy, you should be able to avoid all the divinities and monsters. Why do you have to do this?" The old man casually replied, "All my family members have been eaten by the monsters. My sect, my friends, everything I have has been destroyed by them. Where else can I go?" The old man's hand seals suddenly stopped. He looked up at Gu Qingshan and spoke deeply. "The Heaven Sword is my only hope. Brat, you definitely can't fail. I'll leave the future to you." He infused his entire body's spirit energy into the hand seal and completed it. Poof! The old man's entire body exploded into a mist of blood that was blown away by the howling sea breeze. A layer of light wrapped around Gu Qingshan's body, then made a turn against the wind and headed back the way they came. Within Gu Qingshan's inner sight, the light followed the path they came from and headed towards the military camp. Legend has it that after a person dies, They would follow the path they came from and collect all of their footprints, leaving no traces behind. This was soul retreat. The old man had been staying in this phantom image for over 10,000 years, just to cover up the tracks of a person who came after him. He was only waiting for this moment where he would die. Gu Shan went silent for a while, then clasped her fist towards the void of space. "Don't worry, Senior. I will definitely not fail." He rode the airship and flew towards the ocean. Time slowly passed. 20 breaths later, the military camp. A figure suddenly appeared. A divinity with a golden glow between his eyebrows. He opened his hand and stared at the desolate coin in his hand. The desolate coin didn't move at all. The divinity appeared surprised. As he pondered, he suddenly flew into one of the barracks and gently tapped the forehead of a sleeping cultivator. The cultivator instantly died. Countless images quickly flashed through the divinity's eyes. A few moments later, the divinity finished looking through this cultivator's memories. "Nothing," he murmured softly. He flew into another barracks and lightly touched the foreheads of several sleeping cultivators. Pieces of memories flowed into his mind. Strange, the divinity was a bit annoyed. He leapt into the sky and looked around. The night was as dark as ink. At the faraway horizon, several gigantic figures that seemed to connect heaven and earth were slowly making their way here. The divinity abruptly looked down. The cultivators in the camp were still sleeping. Why aren't they reacting to such a huge commotion? The divinity finally realized. It turns out these people's souls had already been taken away and turned into prepared food. He looked to the other side again. Under the dark sky, he couldn't hear any human voices at all. This was already the end of the world. The primordial heaven realm's humanity had already gone extinct. How did I suddenly move forward so much and arrive at this moment? The divinity looked at the coin in his hand. The coin still didn't react. The divinity suddenly recalled the figure of Light's words. "This desolate coin is the real deal. It will help you sense your target's location. The only problem is that there's a chance of deviation. Did something really go wrong?" The divinity remained silent for a while longer. Brilliant rays of light began to radiate from his body, quickly flying and searching in every direction. A few moments later, all the light returned to his body. There were no living humans. In other words, humanity had already gone extinct. Gu Shan wasn't here either. After confirming this, the divinity muttered, "Seems like there really was a deviation. No, I need to hurry and catch up to him. Otherwise, with the help of those age-of-old humans, he'll only grow stronger and stronger, at which point things will become troublesome." He abruptly struck the void of space. The void of space split open. A black hole appeared in front of him. Chapter 819. On the ocean. Gu Shan put his hand on the deck of the airship and closed his eyes in thought. The cultivators of the age of old were truly brilliant. Not only did they create a stealthy airship that could fly up to the ninth heaven, but they also engraved a lot of knowledge and experience of the cultivation civilization into the ship. In other words, the entire airship was a JTAG that contained humanity's highest cultivation knowledge. Facing such a treasure, Gu Shan wasn't greedy, nor did he blindly try to comprehend all of its contents. At a time like this, having more doesn't necessarily mean it's better. Only with less would he be able to quickly move forward. After all, this world was in the midst of an era of destruction, so he needed to speed up and leave this place as soon as possible to go to the next world. Gu Shan picked and chose only the ones that could increase his cultivation speed and increase his spirit energy. When he felt that he was ready, he took out a spirit energy pill, swallowed it, sat down cross-legged, and entered a meditative state. With the support of war god skills, over 1,000,000 soul points, Xieguam Hong's swordsmanship inheritance, as well as the understanding of the cultivators of the age of old, Gu Shan's breakthrough to the next realm came naturally. A few moments later, he opened his eyes. He was now a cryptic realm late-stage cultivator. His spirit energy waves became sluggish, a bit chaotic and sluggish. Not too long ago, he broke through to cryptic realm middle stage, and now he's breaking through to cryptic realm late stage. The consecutive breakthroughs caused his spirit energy to become unstable. Fortunately, this wasn't a very serious situation. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for Gu Qingshan to break through again in a short period of time. Gu Qingshan silently recalled a certain ancient technique that could calm spirit energy fluctuations, clasped his hands together, and formed a hand seal. This was the 9 Revolutions spirit release technique. In the age of old, the great cultivators of the age of old came up with a brilliant idea to deal with spirit energy fluctuations. That was to vent out the agitated spiritual energy. After all the spirit energy is released, the dantian would be completely empty. When the dantian produced spiritual power again, taking advantage of the weak spiritual power of the new life to stabilize it, you can easily calm the spiritual power fluctuations. Gu Qingshan continued to circulate her spirit release art, slowly straightening out her newly born spirit qi according to the ancient method. Then, she guided the spirit qi through her limbs, bones, meridians, and finally returned to her dantian. The spiritual power calmed down. Since their spirit energy had calmed down, the cultivator could now follow the cultivation method to guide their spirit energy to grow and attempt to break through to the next stage. However, the ancient cultivators were not like Gu Qingshan, who could directly comprehend all kinds of profound cultivation methods. The speed of their breakthroughs was determined by their own cultivation aptitude and their ability to comprehend cultivation techniques. Gu Qingshan opened her eyes and sighed. He sincerely admired the wisdom of the ancient cultivators. He stood up from the flying ship and carefully sensed the changes in the spiritual energy in his body. The total amount of spiritual power had increased by about 5%. When he breaks through cryptic realm and advances to chaotic star realm, his spirit energy will also increase greatly. The amount of spirit energy a cultivator has directly affected the power of their attacks and how long they can last in battle. 4 sword techniques and spells, the more spirit energy they use, the more powerful they will be. With Gu Qingshan's current spirit energy as the benchmark, any secret art she uses would be several times more powerful than when he was still at Sainted Realm. Now it's time to try to comprehend the method to quickly break through to the next realm. With that in mind, Gu Qingshan looked at the War God UI. The total amount of soul points displayed on the War God UI had reached over 1 million. War God skills has been prepared and can be upgraded at any time. But why do I have to learn the techniques of the divinities? Xie Guhong was able to win against the divinities by half a strike with his swordsmanship alone. Why do I have to give up what's close at hand and seek what's far away? He thought for a bit and asked, "System, I have a question." Ting. The War God UI responded. "You may ask from now on. Each question will cost 10 soul points." Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. "Why are you charging soul points? You've never charged them before?" "Thank you for the 20 soul points you've given me. I will now answer your question as follows. Because you have over 1 million soul points, the system also wants to bask in some of your glory." The bygone era had a vivid description of this. A man keeps his wealth, a goose plucks its feathers. The War God UI slowly replied. Gu Qingshan looked at his soul points and saw that the huge number had indeed changed a bit. 20 soul points were deducted. This system, fine, it's only 20 soul points. Not to mention, this 1 million soul points is already far above the limit. According to the system, this was all thanks to it. Otherwise, Gu Qingshan would only be able to store a few hundred soul points. There's no need to bicker with it over 20 soul points. Gu Qingshan sighed speechlessly. He continued to ask, "I want to know why the War God UI needs to be upgraded to learn the skills of the divinities. Also, does this mean that the skills of the divinities are superior to those of humanity?" Thank you for the 20 soul points. Your first question is very simple. Because you and I have returned to the era before the apocalypse, when we were traveling through space-time, in order to not be noticed by any entities, as well as to successfully return to the past. The system couldn't help but remove and shut down the majority of its functions. Even War God skills had regressed to its lowest possible state. Regarding this, You can see the relevant options below the War God UI to understand. Gu Qingshan looked at the War God UI as told. At the bottom of the UI, a row of icons silently glowed coldly. Looking at them in order, they were War God Skills, War God Thaumaturgy, War God Title, Doomsday Chronicles, and War God Quest. Aside from these 5 icons, the other icons were obscured like black holes, occasionally giving off a black mist so they couldn't be seen at all. There are still a lot of functions that haven't been unlocked yet. Gu Qingshan muttered. Yes, I've regressed very severely. The War God UI continued. I will now answer your second question. The divinity skills aren't superior to humanity's. Then why can I only learn the divinity skills after the War God UI levels up? Gu Qingshan asked. Thank you for the 10 soul points. This is because the divinity skills aren't the divinity skills. They are imitating and learning from humanity from countless years ago. That's how they managed to grasp a few simple ways to use their powers. This answer surprised Gu Qingshan a bit. He muses and asked, then, learning the divinity skills is actually learning the original skills of humanity? That's correct. Thank you for the 10 soul points, the system replied. Gu Qingshan's thoughts quickly turned and suddenly asked, then what about the desolate monsters? Were their skills innate, or did they learn them from humanity? The War God UI replied, it's rare for you to think of such a question. This is a very important matter, so you will be charged 25 soul points. The system will answer as follows. The desolate monsters were created once. Their bodies, their abilities, everything about them were created by humanity from the bygone era. Furthermore, the system will give you an additional piece of information. After you rank up War God skills, the next time you rank up War God skills, you will be able to comprehend the power of humanity from a very long time ago from the bodies of desolate monsters. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask, the next time I level it up? How do I level it up? Thank you for the 20 soul points. First of all, you can indeed level it up again. Secondly, as for the soul points required to level up War God skills, the next time you level it up, it will be around 3 million soul points. Gu Qingshan angrily shouted. 3 million? What do you think I'm going to steal 3 million for you? The War God UI calmly explained. Humanity didn't spend too much effort on the desolate monsters, so the desolate monsters' inherited power is actually quite minuscule. But since their power came from a genuine human inheritance, unlike the divinities who only learned it through imitation, their power is a bit stronger than divinities, the system emphasized. That's why it's a bit more expensive. Gu Qingshan couldn't say anything. He looked towards the ocean and pondered the information he received from the War God UI. He really couldn't imagine just how powerful humanity was countless years ago. According to the desolate ruler's conversation with the divinities, humanity once entered a door in the bygone era. What's behind that door? It's been a few 100 million years. Why haven't they returned? Gu Qingshan looked at the waves of the ocean, as well as the dark sky in the distance. And now, all of humanity is dead. This world is showing the end of the primordial heaven realm. Perhaps the spirit tortoise was the only survivor of the entire primordial heaven realm. At this point, a thought suddenly appeared in Gu Qingshan's mind. His heart skipped a beat. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Chapter 820. How many worlds were there in the age of old? Thinking about this, Gu Qingshan became serious. System, in this era, other than the primordial heaven realm, how many worlds are there? Gu Qingshan asked. The War God UI replied. This matter is unrelated to the system. The system cannot answer. Gu Qingshan said. This is a very important question. I'll give you a bit more soul points. Answer me, the War God UI replied. You must find out about this yourself. I don't know about matters unrelated to me. Gu Qingshan had no choice but to give up. He paced back and forth on the airship, thinking of a way to investigate the other worlds. At this time, the primordial heaven realm was in a state of extinction. All living beings on land were dead. The ocean was also completely empty. Gu Qingshan was floating alone on the ocean. How would he investigate these things? After thinking for a while, he crouched down and placed his hand on the airship. Other than cultivation scriptures, The cultivators of the age of old should have left quite a bit of history and civilization records. Gu Qingshan's inner sight entered the airship, carefully searching through the vast scriptures. A few dozen seconds later, his eyes suddenly lit up and muttered, "Found it. According to humanity's records, there were a total of 2 worlds in this era. The primordial heaven realm, the primordial wraith realm. According to legends, when the divinities first appeared, they used many methods to gain the trust of humanity in the primordial heaven realm. The divinities once entered the primordial wraith realm and tried to contact the evil creatures, but they failed to make contact with the demons. The divinities once tried to study the evil creatures, but found that the evil creatures were born from primal chaos and nature. They were living beings manifested from the laws of reality. They had a deep understanding of the essence of the infinite worlds and couldn't accept the existence of the divinities. This was the end of the explanation for the existence of worlds. The primordial heaven realm was under the complete control of the divinities, so it was almost impossible for humanity to bypass the divinities to investigate the mysteries of the world. Gu Qingshan pulled his hand back and silently shook his head. Seems like there are some things I need to ask myself. Gu Qingshan tapped his inventory bag and took out 2 pills. Putting them in his mouth, he clasped his hands together and formed a hand seal. Profound spirit late-stage cultivators could break through to the chaotic star realm. Vigorous spiritual energy soared into the sky from his body, using all his strength to soar into the clouds to trigger the laws of the world. Bang! Thunder rumbled. Dark clouds spread. The heavenly tribulation had arrived. An hour later, the heavenly thunder ended. In the void, all kinds of roars and screams could be heard. Ferocious faces silently appeared in the void of space. The demons were coming. Gu Qingshan looked around, opened her arms, and said with a smile, "Long time no see, old friends. How have you been?" There was no sound. None of the demons responded to him. All the devils surrounded the flying ship and appeared in the air one after another. They were sizing up Gu Qingshan as if they were sizing up their prey. It's rare to see fresh meat. A demon king licked his lips. That's right, the human race is about to go extinct. If we don't eat it now, we won't be able to in the future, a ghost king said coldly. Unfortunately, there's something wrong with this person's head. We don't even know him. Why would he greet us? Another female ghost king said. Don't try to steal it from me. I want to eat him, another demon king said. Those arms and legs are mine. Give me the head. I'll take the body. The evil creatures were dividing the rights of the food. Gu Qingshan's hands froze. Listening to the evil creature's conversation, he suddenly realized something. He only became acquainted with the evil creatures in the phantom images of the previous era. At the time, he had been training from Qi training all over again, coming into frequent contact with the evil creatures, and slowly became familiar with them. But in this phantom image, he didn't come into contact with the evil creatures at all. This was really a headache. Gu Qingshan rubbed his forehead for a while before putting it down. In the darkness of the night, the evil creatures were already howling as they charged forward. This was the perfect time to enjoy human flesh. Without a choice, Gu Qingshan could only grab 2 swords from the void of space. Very well. I'm not in the mood to drink with you lot right now, he sighed and murmured. About 10 minutes later. Brat, kill us if you can. What kind of tribulation is this? One of the demon kings roared in anger. Gu Qingshan walked forward, clenched his fist, and punched the demon king's head. Without a sound, he punched again and again until the ghost king puppet fainted. Only then did he stop. Brat, I advise you to let us go. You only managed to win against us by relying on your tribulation. One of the demon kings coldly spoke. Gu Qingshan rubbed his hand, slowly walked up to the demon king, and began to kick his vitals. One kick, one kick, one kick, one kick, one kick. The demon king was soaked in cold sweat, unable to say a single word. It was now that Gu Qingshan stopped. In front of him, all the demon kings and devil kings had their limbs cut off, neatly lined up on the floor of the airship. After dealing with so many demon kings and devil kings, Gu Qingshan was a bit tired. He wiped his sweat, leaned against the airship, and slowly sat down on the ground. In the sky, the lightning tribulation had already faded away, but the intense wind hadn't stopped. This meant that the tribulation wasn't over yet. Because all the evil creatures who came to face the tribulation were still on the airship, none of them able to leave. Gu Qingshan was stunned for a while. He was thinking about the Wraith Realm and Heaven Realm bit by bit. One of the Devil Kings couldn't help himself and shouted, "Brat, what exactly are you trying to do?" Gu Qingshan stood up again and walked in front of the Devil King. He took a deep breath and raised his fist. He infused spirit energy into his fist and punched the Devil King. The Devil King was struck speechless for a while. After beating him up, Gu Qingshan returned to where he was and sat down. He continued to blankly stare. The evil creatures exchanged glances. Could it be that the last survivor of humanity is a madman? What should I do? I can't just stay here like this, unable to live or die. Those who tried to sneak out of this world were all cut in half by a sword flash and died on the spot. Both my arms and legs have been cut off, so it's going to take a lot of effort to go back. I can't do it in a split second. Just what do I have to do for him to let me go? One of the female Devil Kings softened her voice and softly asked, "Young man, what do you need this servant to do for you?" Gu Qingshan stood up again and walked in front of the female Devil King. The female Devil King nervously stared at him, but still managed to squeeze out a bewitching smile on her face. "Whatever you want, I'll agree to it." Gu Qingshan looked at her and suddenly smiled. He finally spoke. "You don't have any arms or legs, so I won't make it hard for you. But you have to tell me honestly where you want to go." The female Devil King froze. The other Devil Kings and Devil Kings didn't know what to say. This person is seriously sick. 4 evil creatures. The last thing they fear is a human that they've already seen through. Once the evil creatures know that you want something, everything will become very troublesome. No matter how noble your goal is, they will always have a way to take you down the abyss of corruption, slowly and patiently corrode everything about you until they take away your soul. Only humans who are too unique, because they can't be moved by any desires or temptations, and the evil creatures can't even guess what they want to do, can make the evil creatures feel helpless. "I want to return to the Shadow Mountain realm," the female Devil King dryly replied. "Sure," Gu Qingshan replied. "Can I go back?" the female Devil King asked. "You can. Tell me the method to return to the Shadow Wraith realm. Then you can go," Gu Qingshan replied. The female Devil King froze briefly, then smiled. "That's not a problem. As long as you're willing to go." The Heaven's tribulation had suppressed her power, making her only slightly stronger than the person facing the tribulation. If this psychopath dared to go to the Shadow Mountain, she swore to make him suffer a fate worse than death. The female Devil King happily chanted an incantation and reminded him. This incantation requires wind and blood to activate. For example, like this. After a bit of preparation, the female Devil King coughed up some blood. Without any limbs, this was the only thing she could do. Gu Qingshan silently memorized the incantation. He allowed her to disappear in front of him. The evil creatures all looked at him in disbelief. This brat wants to go to the world of evil creatures? If he dares to go, he'll definitely die there. Chapter 821. Gu Qingshan walked in front of the second Fiend King. He crouched down and looked at the other party. "Tell me how you got back," the Fiend King smirked. "I can bring you back with me." "No need." Gu Qingshan looked at the long line of fiends and devils behind him. "I haven't decided which one I'm going to play with yet." The Fiend King saw him raising the sword in his hand and hurriedly said, "In the darkness, using your fingers as the light source and sound as the guide, you will need a total of 39 chants." He chanted a long string of incantations. Gu Qingshan carefully listened and memorized the incantation. After chanting the incantation, the Fiend King slowly disappeared in front of him. He went back. Gu Qingshan walked towards the next Fiend King. The Fiend King rolled his eyes and said, "Chant this incantation after me." Gu Qingshan drew his sword and swung it at the Fiend King's body. Blood splattered. The Fiend King was cut in half. He looked at Gu Qingshan unwillingly and used the last of his strength to ask, Why? Gu Qing Shan casually replied. Fiend King from the fallen prison. Every time you turn your eyes, you must be thinking about how to trick people. Do you think I don't know? The Fiend King couldn't say a single word and slowly lost his life. The other Fiend Kings and Fiend Kings were completely silent. After a while, one of the Fiend Kings muttered to himself, "That's impossible. How could he understand the fallen wraiths so well?" Gu Qing Shan walked towards the next Fiend King. He stared at the Fiend King without saying a word. The Fiend King hurriedly said, "Use wind and lightning to fuse in your mouth. Chant the 18 chants." He chanted the incantation and slowly disappeared in front of Gu Qing Shan. Gu Qing Shan nodded and walked towards the next Fiend King. The Fiend King looked at him and whispered, "I have a secret artifact. As long as you obtain it, it will be able to take you to any world you want." Gu Qing Shan cut off his head with a single strike. "What?" One of the Fiend Kings couldn't help but shout. Gu Qing Shan replied, "This guy has never been honest. Who doesn't know that its secret treasure can only send people to the extreme ice demon nest 1950th floor? That floor is filled with the eternal night. Ice. Even divinities can't easily escape." The fiends and fiends looked at him in silence again. The look in their eyes changed. "This isn't a retard. I don't know what this thing is. It's too creepy." The demons didn't want to think otherwise. Right now, they just wanted to go home. Time. The Fiend King was a Black Shan Devil King with a handsome face and king. The Fiend King was a Qing Shan with a Demon King. He looked like a human, but he had a long, pointed tail on his back. He King Gu R of the Gu Qing Shan. Gu Qing Shan silently noted it down and said, "Xie Fiend King, there are no other evil creatures here right now, so you don't need to be afraid of them laughing at you for being a coward." "What do you mean?" The Xie Fiend King smiled apologetically. Gu Qing Shan replied, "I have a question for you. You must answer me properly, otherwise I'll kill you." The Xie Fiend King was shocked, but respectfully replied, "Please go ahead." Gu Qing Shan took a deep breath and solemnly asked, "Did the desolate monsters and divinities invade the primordial wraith realm?" The one in front of him was the weakest and most cowardly Fiend King. He was also the breakthrough point for everything. That was why he used various methods to subdue all the evil creatures and left this one for last. The Xie Fiend King replied. They did. Gu Qing Shan asked, "What was the result?" The Fiend King replied, "Evil creatures are not tasty. Eating them would only make the desolate monsters and divinities feel extremely uncomfortable, and it didn't bring them any benefits. Even the primordial wraith realm was filled with spirit energy that made them uncomfortable. So to prevent the wraith realm from becoming stronger, they split the primordial wraith realm into several thousand pieces before leaving." Gu Qing Shan went silent. Who would have thought the primordial wraith realm would also end up like that? Xie Fiend King, you've answered a very important question. I will now reward you with a secret," he said. The Fiend King appeared to be listening attentively. Gu Qing Shan continued, "In truth, your wife had already hooked up with the cruel Bone Devil King a long time ago, while you've been living your life in a drunken stupor, not even taking care of the Wraith Realm or improving your strength. Everyone now thinks of you as a worthless wastrel. Furthermore, the reason why you haven't died yet is because the cruel Bone Devil King thinks that it's very interesting. He enjoys the feeling of being cuckolded by you. Of course, he also thinks that it's best for your woman and your territory to remain as they are. So you're still alive, and your Wraith Realm hasn't been annexed yet, even though it already belongs to the cruel Bone Devil King." The Xie Fiend King froze. He was stunned for a very long time. Gu Qing Shan sighed. "In truth, I won't interfere with the matters between the two of you. After all, wherever there are evil creatures, there will always be grudges, and I don't want to get involved." Gu Qing Shan lightly swung her sword. "But I hope that when you die, you'll know what's going on." She pulled her sword back. Gu Qing Shan let go of the sword and let it disappear into the void of space. On the ground, the Xie Fiend King had already been cut into countless pieces. There were no more evil creatures on the airship. It was completely silent. The sea breeze continued to blow. Gu Qing Shan stood blankly in front of the Xie Fiend King's corpse for a very long time. Finally, An autumn water, clear blue, sword once again appeared from the void of space and turned into a cold beauty with a delicate face. Shanu. She couldn't hold back her emotions anymore. Gongzi, are you all right today? Shanu asked caringly. I'm fine, Gu Qingshan replied. Why do I feel like you're acting a bit strange? Because I've been thinking about something over and over again. Because this matter is too important and I can't afford any mistakes. I can't help but feel a bit nervous. Is it about the Heaven Sword? Yes, Shana thought for a bit and asked. Did Gongzi capture these evil creatures just to obtain the incantation to return to the Wraith Realm? I didn't, Gu Qingshan slowly explained. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but through their incantations and how they're used, I found out that the evil creatures actually know how to use the 5 unique powers of wind, lightning, light, dark sound, but the age-of-old cultivators and even the desolate monsters didn't seem to know how to deal with the 5 unique elements. That's why there's a reason why the evil creatures were able to continue to exist. He picked up a piece of the Xieqi, Fiend King's flesh. Seeing his actions, Shanu seemed to understand a bit. Gongzi, you want to, while they were talking, Gu Qingshan had turned back into the Xieqi Fiend King. He threw the piece of flesh away, held the jade disc that led to the next phantom image in his hand, used a few dozen hand seals to seal it away, then put it away in a jade box. Shanu couldn't understand again. Seeing her expression, Gu Qingshan explained, Before I killed the Devil King just now, I wasn't spacing out. It was because it was a sealing technique on the jade disc on the airship, so I studied it a bit, and it turned out that I really did find a way to seal the jade disc, Shanu asked. Why did Gongzi want to seal the jade disc? Gu Qingshan replied, From the jade disc, there must be a lot more to come. And after thinking about it for a long time, I found that as long as a single part of this goes wrong, everything will be over. Gongzi doesn't trust the cultivators of the age of old. It's not that I don't trust them, but rather that we have to discard our emotions and judge from the most realistic and objective point of view. How did Gongzi come to this conclusion? For countless years in the age of old, humanity had always been suppressed, which means that the desolate monsters and divinities had the absolute advantage. This proves one thing. The monsters and divinities have always had a way to win against humanity. While listening, Shanna nodded. So Gongzi believes that they have a way to deal with the final measure left behind by the cultivators. I can't exclude this possibility, Gu Qingshan replied. It's not that I don't trust Shifu and the others, but if even one of them makes a mistake, this entire thing will be ruined. Shanu was a bit panicked and muttered. If we can't win against them, even in the end, wouldn't our efforts be in vain? Gu Qingshan replied, That's not it. In truth, other than them, there are other people who can fight against the divinities and the desolate monsters. Other people? Who? Shanu asked in surprise. Of course it's me, Gu Qingshan replied. Shanu froze. Gu Qingshan slowly explained. I'm a sword cultivator with a sword in my hand. I don't need to rely on the sacrifices of my ancestors to pave the way for everything. He looked up at the darkness of the night and muttered, I don't want to be chased around like a stray dog, nor do I want to run into a trap of the divinities that I can't even defend against. So I need power. I need the power to change all of this. Gu Qingshan clasped his hands together, using the power of lightning and wind to form the incantation to enter the Wraith Realm. Xieqi Realm, the lost abyss of bliss of all demons. Open your gate for me, he chanted. An invisible gate appeared from the void of space. Let's go, yes, Gongzi. Chapter 822. The darkness was heavy. In this vast world, the desolate monsters were rampaging without fear. The divinities had turned into sprites of light that wandered around the sky. This was the same phantom image where humanity was heading towards destruction. After Gu Qingshan left, a distorted phantom abruptly appeared in the empty field at the center of the military camp. The phantom disappeared, revealing a person in its place. A golden flame was burning between his eyebrows. His entire body was giving off a blinding light while holding a strange coin in his hand. The golden flame divinity. He had once again returned to this phantom image. Strange, where exactly did he run off to? The divinity was slowly pacing around the military camp. The entire military camp was in shambles. All the sleeping cultivators had been cleanly devoured. The remains of their flesh and blood were everywhere, covering the ground and the walls. The divinity went from room to room, leaving a trail of bloody footprints behind. He was fully focused on analyzing the current situation. He had already searched through several hundred phantom images of the age of old. Even with his divinity's abilities, he was still feeling extremely tired after traveling through several hundred space-time. But he still couldn't find any traces of Guqing Shan. So he returned to this world that was being tracked by the coin and reconsidered the entire situation. All of a sudden, the golden flame divinity sensed something and turned around. The figure of light was standing not too far behind him. "Why are you here?" the golden flame divinity asked. The figure of light replied, "That coin contained the will of our ancient divine race. I noticed that you were in trouble, so I came to help you," the golden flame divinity replied. "The coin had an error. I couldn't find him in this world." The figure of light reached his hand out. "Come, give me the coin. We have already prepared the corresponding method to correct this error." The golden flame divinity paused, then asked, "You even prepared for such an error?" "Of course," the figure of light replied. "Both the desolate race and our divine race couldn't just stand by and watch as humanity made their preparations." The figure of light's tone became heavier. "We are the rulers of humanity's fate. Their everything is in our grasp, and their final hope will also be destroyed by us. Did the desolate race also prepare a countermeasure?" The golden flame divinity tried asking. "Indeed, the humans of the primordial heaven realm must die. Everything they have will be turned to ash. We will not allow them to do anything that might threaten us," the figure of light declared. "A wise decision," the golden flame divinity praised. "Give me the coin. I will use my divine craft to correct the deviation on it. That way, you'll be able to directly arrive at the phantom image of the future humanity," the figure of light said. The golden flame divinity said nothing and tossed the coin over. The figure of light reached his hand out and let the coin hover above his palm. It muttered a long incantation in a low voice until the coin began to glow rhythmically. "Take it. It has been reactivated and can once again search for that human," the figure of light said. The coin flew in front of the golden flame divinity. The golden flame divinity received the coin and infused it with his divine power. "Hum!" The coin chirped loudly and brought the golden flame divinity through the void of space towards the fog of space-time. One breath, the void opened up again. The golden flame divinity once again appeared in this world. He landed in the middle of the military camp, standing in front of the figure of light. The figure of light. The golden flame divinity. The golden flame divinity abruptly spoke. "That can't be right. The desolate coin shouldn't have deviated twice in a row," the figure of light replied. "Which means that future human must be within this phantom image." "That is indeed the case," the golden flame divinity smirked. "It seems he must have obtained some sort of unique method to hide in a certain place within this phantom image. I'm guessing that the age of old must have used some sort of method to conceal his whereabouts. That's why we were fooled." Once the figure of light spoke. "Go find him and kill him right now," the golden flame divinity replied. "Of course I have to kill him, but the coin can only take me to his world, and now that the other humans are all dead and the heaven realm is too vast, I've lost track of him." The figure of light replied, "Don't worry, we've prepared another method. It seems we can use it ahead of time." "What method?" the golden flame divinity asked. "I will let all the divinities within this phantom image know that a human has been missed. They will help you search for him. As soon as they find any information, all the divinities will kill him," the figure of light replied. The golden flame divinity paused briefly before smirking. All the divinities were mobilized to search for that human's whereabouts in the primordial heaven realm. What a horrible thing this was. Under such circumstances, the golden flame divinity felt that even he wouldn't be able to hide for too long. "Since you've prepared so thoroughly, it seems I won't need to spend too much effort on this," the golden flame divinity sighed. "Of course," the figure of light coldly replied. "Humanity is already under our complete control. Even at this moment of destruction, they won't be able to do anything against us. The golden flame divinity looked up at the sky, only to see a few sprites of light descending towards the ground. The search was about to begin. The golden flame divinity pondered. I'll leave the continent to you. I'll take care of the ocean. Go ahead. Hm. At the same time, on the ocean. At a certain part of the ocean that was extremely far away from the continent, Gu Shan turned into the Xie Chi Fiend King's appearance, put the airship away, and entered the gate leading to the Wraith Realm. After he walked in, the void door slowly closed and disappeared. This part of the ocean became completely silent. Gu Shan was traveling through the void of space. He was quickly thinking about everything that had happened. The Xie Chi Fiend King was the weakest and most cowardly Fiend King. He was also the weakest among the Fiend Kings. With Gu Shan's chaotic star realm cultivation, as long as he had a sword in his hand, he would be more than enough to deal with him. The Xie Chi Fiend realm was a place for other Fiend realms to rest and relax. But this world also had a certain benefit. It was well informed, because the evil creatures of other Fiend realms often visited this place. This place was the place with the most information and first-hand information on various matters. Gu Shan chose this world. Within the chaotic void of space, a bright purple light slowly manifested around Gu Shan. We're about to reach the Xie Chi world. Gu Shan glanced at Shannon. Shannon nodded and silently disappeared into the void of space. A few moments later, the void of space faded away. Gu Shan landed on a red carpet. He found himself standing in the doorway of a magnificent castle. Two large black evil creatures were blocking his way. Fiend King, you can't go in yet. The fiendess said that she doesn't want to see you right now, one of the black evil creatures said. Gu Shan looked around and pondered. This place seems to be my palace. Indeed, one of the black evil creatures showed a smile that wasn't a smile, but you've always listened to the fiendess, haven't you? You should leave first and find a place to have some fun. You still have money on you right now. As for this place, wait for the fiendess' permission before you can come in and flatter her. The other black evil creature looked down at him and said. Gu Shan fell into thought. The Xie Chi Fiend King seems to have already accepted his situation. Even the guards of the Fiend Palace didn't allow the Fiend King to enter. What a joke. I didn't think the Xie Chi Fiend King would live such a miserable life. Seems like the fiendess is quite impressive. TCH, Gu Shan muttered in a low voice. You call yourself a Fiend King like this? One of the evil creatures didn't hear him clearly and spoke in a mocking tone. Sir Fiend King, what are you muttering now? Why don't you tell us so that we can have some fun as well? Don't worry, we won't tell Master hearing that. Gu Shan silently sighed. He explained, I mean, compared to me, a lot of Fiend Kings and Devil Kings aren't qualified enough. A cold gleam flashed. Two heads flew to the sky and fell into the depths of the Fiend Palace. Inside the castle, noises and commotion could be heard. Gu Shan acted like he didn't hear anything. He flicked the blood off his sword, thought about the Xie Chi Fiend King situation, and couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 823. The Xie Chi Fiend Realm used to be a barren wasteland of the primordial Wraith Realm. There had never been any natural treasures of the Wraith Realm here, nor were there any natural conditions that could help the evil creatures grow stronger. No evil creatures were interested in this place. That's why after the primordial Wraith Realm was destroyed and the Xie Chi Fiend King took over this place, no other Fiend Kings coveted it. After killing two evil creatures, Gu Shan walked along the long hallway of the palace. After a few steps, a group of Xie Chi fiends who were responsible for guarding the place came to greet him. They were jet black in color and looked similar to humans, with long spikes on their tails. The captain of the guard shouted, Fiend King, you can't enter the palace. Otherwise we'll have no choice but to be rude. Gu Shan ignored him. He walked past the group of guards and continued forward. Strangely, all the guards stood still without moving. None of them tried to stop him. It wasn't until his figure disappeared that an intense, sword-infused wind swept through the entire hallway. All the guards were turned into minced meat and scattered by the wind. After Gu Shan walked a bit further, another group of evil creatures appeared in front of him. These evil creatures were clearly stronger than the ones from before. The leader of the evil creatures tried to persuade him. Serene King, you can't go any further, otherwise if Master finds out about what happened here, your allowance for next month will be gone sure enough. Gu Shan stopped. Allowance, he face-palmed, feeling speechless towards the Xie Qi Fiend King. As a Fiend King, everything was controlled by his wife. He couldn't even return home. He had to hand over all his money. Of course, the latter part was negotiable. But the Fiendess clearly had full control over the Fiend King, as well as this entire Wraith realm, and even made the Xie Qi Fiend King wear a green hat. But that wasn't the case at all. Gu Shan didn't waste any time. His flying sword appeared from the void of space and slashed. The vast white crescent sword phantom circled around Gu Shan once. Rumble, rumble. Amidst the splattering of flesh and blood, the entire palace was cut open. As a chaotic star realm cultivator, Gu Shan's spirit energy was much stronger than before. When he activated his sword seal, a large amount of spirit energy flowed into the flying sword, turning into a powerful secret art. The few surviving devils were stunned by this powerful force and couldn't help but retreat to the side. An angry female voice rang out. Which bastard dares to touch my palace? In the depths of the distant palace, a graceful figure leaped into the sky and flew over. Which, such a huge commotion finally alerted her. The demoness landed in front of Gu Shan and roared angrily. So it's you good for nothing. How dare you destroy the palace? Do you want to die? Gu Shan answered calmly. I am the demon king of this realm. The demoness sneered. Do you think that besides yourself, who else would treat you as the demon king? Gu Shan glanced at her. How fast could a glance be? Several protective treasures rose from the demoness body, but she was unable to react in time. The thick disdain on the demoness face froze, and her entire head fell to the ground. Her headless body fell to the ground. Gu Shan stared at the demoness body and waited for a while. Gray mist rose from the corpse and formed a short incantation. The incantation suddenly disappeared, as if something from the void of space had caught it. Several dozen strands of mist descended from the sky and gathered around the demoness body. A withered hand reached out, grabbed the demoness hair, and lifted her head up. The cruel bone devil king. He had a pair of dark wings, a lanky figure, and a haggard face. How regretful. You were killed so abruptly. I didn't even have time to rush over to save you. The cruel bone devil king stared at the demoness' seductive appearance and sighed regretfully. Gu Shan looked at him, then at the powerful subordinates around him, and cleared her throat. Thank you for coming here directly. It saved me a lot of trouble. So if you're done mourning, please turn around. I have a deal to discuss with you. The cruel bone devil king didn't even look at him, only staring blankly at the demoness head for a while. After a while, he slowly spoke. Your entire Wraith realm is mine. What do you have to make a deal with me? Gu Shan replied. Please give me the cruel bone devil realm's elemental roots. I have a use for it. The cruel bone devil king finally turned around to look at him and tried asking, which great one are you speaking for? Or is someone trying to steal my Wraith realm? No, Gu Shan replied. I'm the one who wants to make a deal with you. As if this was the first time the cruel bone devil king saw him, he observed him for a while before asking his subordinates, am I dreaming, or has the pitiful Xie Qi Fiend King gone mad? The attendants roared with laughter. An extremely cowardly fiend dared to ask the cruel bone devil king for the Wraith realm's elemental roots. What other explanation could there be other than going mad? Gu Shan sincerely told him, I'm serious. You can use the cruel bone devil realm's elemental roots to exchange for your life right now. While they were talking, a gentle breeze started to pick up from the ruins of the palace. This breeze surrounded the evil creatures and slowly formed an impenetrable encirclement. The wind was invisible, formless, and all-pervasive. Countless tiny sword phantoms gathered to form a gust of wind that enveloped one of the evil creatures, pierced and slashed through it countless times. The evil creatures only saw it being brushed by the breeze before disappearing from where it was. Only the faint smell of blood remained in the air. The wind became stronger. It was blowing from the evil creatures' bodies, whistling by their ears, sweeping in every direction and enveloping every inch of space. Gu Qingshan shrugged. Just look, I could have killed all of your subordinates, but I've only taken the life of a single evil creature. This has already shown my sincerity. Please consider my offer. The cruel-boned Devil King stood there, feeling the cold wind blowing against his body, his heart sinking to the bottom. This is swordsmanship. Could it be you're a cultivator? He shouted in a low voice. Gu Qingshan raised a finger. Blinding arcs of lightning flickered at the tip of his finger. The cruel-boned Devil King was surprised. Elemental lightning. You're not human, he pondered. Gu Qingshan replied, I'm sorry, I don't have much time for you to think. 10 breaths worth of time. The cruel-boned Devil King stared at him and spoke in a low voice. I need a bit more time to think, fine, Gu Qingshan helplessly replied. As soon as he said so, the heart sword moved. The cruel-boned Devil King's soul vessel was shocked by Gu Qingshan's sword intent and stopped for a split second. The flying sword rose. In a split second, the glowing 6 paths great mountain sword had stabbed into the cruel-boned Devil King's chest. Gu Qingshan's elemental lightning struck. Dash, dream jolt. The cruel-boned Devil King froze and fell into a short dream that lasted for 5 seconds. Boom! Intense, sword-infused wind descended from above and enveloped the cruel-boned Devil King. Ah! The cruel-boned Devil King uttered a desperate scream. At this point, the cruel-boned Devil King had only just taken out a scepter that was shrouded in black light. He seemed to be about to unleash some sort of terrifying spell. But the sword-infused wind wasn't going to let him go. The howling wind quickly drowned out the Devil King's screams. Even his subordinates were swept into it. A few moments later, everything vanished into thin air. The cruel-boned Devil King's limbs were gone. He was lying on the ground, covered in blood, his eyes filled with fear. Gu Qingshan stood still and muttered, It's already been 4 breaths. You only have 6 breaths worth of time left to reclaim your life. The cruel-boned Devil King returned to the cruel-boned Devil realm as soon as he got his life back. Gu Qingshan was holding 5 balls of light of different colors in her hand. The blue light was lightning, the white light was light, the black was darkness, the invisible but constantly producing sound was sound, and the purple was wind. Unlike the 5 elements of humanity, the Wraith Realm's 5 elements weren't metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, but rather wind, lightning, light, darkness, and sound. Very quickly, Gu Qingshan had branded these elemental origins with his inner sight. Using spirit energy to control the smithing technique, he skillfully stretched each of the mutated elemental origins into a string, then linked them together. After repeating this a few times, a long string of 5 colored light was formed. Lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. You've obtained a string of law. This is a string of law from a small Wraith realm after the primordial Wraith realm was destroyed. If you bring it to another world, this small Wraith realm will be pulled over by the string of law, slowly fusing with the other world to form a new world. Gu Qingshan sighed in satisfaction. Gongzi, you want to fuse 2 fragments of the Wraith realm together? Shanu asked. Yes, but I'm not sure if it'll be useful to me, Gu Qingshan replied. Shanu thought for a bit. When 2 worlds fuse, the living beings of the main realm will become stronger. Gongzi is afraid that the law of world fusion won't work on an outsider like you. That's right, we can only give it a try. If it doesn't work, we'll have to think of another way, Gu Qingshan replied. Shannon replied, It should work because after becoming the Xie Qi Fiend King, your body will become the body of this world's fiend, so the laws of the world will reflect back to you. It doesn't have sentience, so it won't be able to determine your true identity. Let's give it a try, Gu Qingshan said. He threw the string of law forward. Chapter 824. The string of law was tossed far away by Gu Qingshan and melted into the void of space. The 5 laws of wind, lightning, light, dark, and sound from the cruel bone fiend realm slowly seeped into the laws of this world from the surface of the Xie fiend realm and began to affect the two worlds. At first, nothing happened, but more and more evil creatures were able to sense the fluctuations of battle. The ruins of the palace had already been completely surrounded by evil creatures who came to check on the situation. The first evil creatures to arrive quickly told the rest of the evil creatures about how the Xie Fiend King tortured the cruel Bone Devil King. No one thought that the Xie Fiend King would be able to defeat the cruel Bone Devil King. And the Xie Fiend Realm was a place where all evil creatures of the Wraith Realms rest and spend their time. So news spread very quickly. Not too long after, many other Wraith Realms found out about this place. Following that, a spectacular scene unfolded. The evil creatures all screamed in shock. Gu Qingshan and Shanu also looked up at the sky. A vast continent appeared in the sky, blotting out the sun. It silently and quickly flew across the sky, heading towards the edge of the Xie Fiend Realm. Boom! Under the watchful eyes of countless evil creatures, the continent and the Xie Fiend Realm fused together. A miraculous change occurred. Underneath Gu Qingshan's feet, a transparent crystal began to grow from the ground. Demonic origin gem, an evil creature exclaimed. This was the currency of the Wraith Realm, capable of being used to manipulate spirit energy to perform powerful spells. The Xie Fiend Realm, that had always been a barren wasteland, after fusing with the cruel Bone Devil Realm, its origin had clearly become richer and more abundant. Various strange and unusual things began to grow from the void of space and underground all over this world. The evil creatures began to scatter and fight for the treasures of this Wraith Realm. For a while, the entire Xie Fiend Realm fell into chaos. Gongzi, they're fighting for the treasures of this world, Shanu reminded him. Gu Qingshan replied and continued to carefully sense the changes in this world. Shanu was still unwilling to give up. Gongzi, you're now the Fiend King of this world. All of those things are yours, Gu Qingshan replied. It's fine. More and more Wraith Realms will fuse with us. Not to mention these evil creatures, they will also belong. He suddenly stopped, and a hint of joy appeared on his face. I can feel it. My power is rapidly increasing, he muttered. The feedback from the world origin had arrived. This meant that the world recognized his identity. Just as Shanu said, he was the one who facilitated the fusion of the worlds. And since he was now the Xie Fiend King, the world gave him a bit of its origin in return. Gu Qingshan quickly gave a formation plate to Shanu. Shanu, protect me. Yes, young master. Shanu began to arrange layers of defensive formations. She arranged all of her strongest defensive formations at once, then wielded the 6 realms and Chao Yin swords, standing next to Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan had already closed her eyes and began to guide the trace of origin energy to help her improve her cultivation. There wasn't the slightest agitation in the spiritual power. It was in a completely calm state, but it was like a long lake after a night of rain, the water level rising steadily and silently. Gu Qingshan put his hand on his inventory bag, chose a chaotic star realm scripture from the supersized jade tag that Xie Guhong prepared for him, then used soul points to comprehend it. In just a few moments, the entire chaotic star realm's breakthrough method had been deeply engraved in his mind. Gu Qingshan silently circulated the scripture to guide the rapidly increasing spirit energy inside his Dantian. Chaotic Star Realm middle stage, and then Chaotic Star Realm late stage. Just a bit more, and I'll break through Chaotic Star Realm and advance to Origin Realm. His spirit energy wasn't agitated at all. The power that came from the world origin allowed Gu Qingshan's soul and body to remain in an extremely calm state. He could continue to break through. Gu Qingshan tried to release his inner sight and found that the range of his perception of the world was quickly expanding. Everything around him was becoming clearer than what he could see with his eyes. This was very good news, because both of his movement divine skills relied on the range of inner sight to activate. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but sigh emotionally. The reason why the Hundred Flowers Fairy was able to break through so quickly was partly because she was already extremely talented to begin with, so much so that even the divinities were jealous of her, but also because the fusion of worlds brought about a lot of improvements. At this point, cheers could be heard from the entire Xie Qi Fiend realm. The evil creatures that grew up in this world all experienced a rapid increase in strength. The entire Xie Qi Fiend realm was becoming stronger. Gu Qingshan stood still and slowly smiled. He seemed to be unable to hold back his smile and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Gongzi, what's the matter? What's so funny? She couldn't help but ask. Shanu, as you know, when the Heaven Tribulation activates, many Fiend Kings and Devil Kings will be suppressed by the Heaven Tribulation to only be a bit stronger than me. They will come to kill me during the Heaven's Tribulation, yes, Gongzi, but this way they won't be able to defeat me at all, and I won't have to be so careful and pick weak, evil realms to wage war against. Gu Qingshan smiled. This way, I won't even have to run around. I can directly trigger the Heavens Tribulation to draw them here. I'll be able to quickly and efficiently steal the mutated 5 elemental origins of each evil realm. Shanu froze. Gu Qingshan clenched his fist and praised. What a fitting name, Heaven's Tribulation. In the name of heaven, steal the world origins of the Fiend Kings and Devil Kings. Shanu looked at Gu Qingshan in shock and hesitantly spoke. Gongzi, that's not what the Heaven's Tribulation means. All right, for us, that's exactly what it means right now, saying so. Gu Qingshan circulated his spirit energy to trigger the laws of heaven and earth. But the fusion of worlds hadn't finished yet, so the laws of heaven and earth hadn't manifested as the Heaven's Tribulation yet. In other words, the world still hasn't reacted. Using this chance, Gu Qingshan wouldn't need to face the chaotic star realm's Heaven's Tribulation and directly advance to the next realm. This was actually a very rare situation. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit and understood. He decided to retract his spirit energy and temporarily stop breaking through. Without the Heaven's Tribulation, the Fiend Kings and Devil Kings won't come here, and I won't be able to quickly collect the elemental origins of each Wraith realm. Are you kidding me? Do I really have to fight them one by one? That's too slow. Heaven's Tribulation is still the fastest and most convenient. Gu Qingshan silently waited for the fusion of the worlds to finish. He needed the Heaven's Tribulation right now. While waiting, he suddenly recalled something. The Heaven Sword's whereabouts are clear. I also know the desolate monsters and divinities' intentions. The fusion of the Wraith realms has proven that it can increase my cultivation. Many things are clear now. Then, Gu Qingshan glanced at the War God UI and saw a certain icon. This icon was very unique, as it depicted the scene of him wielding his sword in battle. War God Quest. In Tree's Collection World, Gu Qingshan once activated the upgrade of Destiny Quest, turning it into War God Quest. The buffs that War God Quest provided him weren't as simple as the final reward. Throughout the course of the quest, War God Quest would grant him a temporary ability to utilize soul points, which he could use during the course of the quest. Last time, Gu Qingshan received Bide, which allowed him to increase the power of his skills. Although this useful ability disappeared after the quest was over, Bide had been extremely useful in several crucial battles. And now, all the conditions had been met. It was time to activate the War God Quest. Gu Qingshan took a deep breath and said, "System, we're going to issue the quest." The War God UI immediately lit up. The War God Quest icon appeared at the center of the UI. 3 lines of glowing text appeared below the War God Quest. Where your sword points is the system's quest objective. War God Quest is about to be activated. Please select the quest's final objective. Description. The harder the quest objective, the more complicated the process of completing the quest, the more powerful your soul points utilization will be. Gu Qingshan answered without hesitation. Our quest objective is to take the Heaven Sword. The War God UI paused for a brief moment. The icon of the War God Quest began to glow with a blinding light. Following that, lines of text related to the quest appeared. According to all known reports, The War God quest will now be issued. Quest description. This is the elegy of humanity from the age of old. The desolate monsters and the divinities came to an agreement to destroy humanity as a whole, and almost succeeded. However, humanity managed to forge the twin swords heaven and earth at the very last moment. Legend has it that the one who wields the twin swords heaven and earth will be able to slay the divinities who once ruled over humanity. Quest description. As humanity was slowly being wiped out, you traveled through the endless passage of time to arrive here, followed by powerful pursuers. In front of you are the desolate monsters and the divinities' various suppressive and destructive measures. You must overcome all enemies and difficulties to finally take the Heaven Sword. Quest objective. Take the Heaven Sword. Quest reward. This quest's difficulty far surpasses any quest you have ever faced before. It will greatly affect the fate of humanity as a whole, perhaps even affecting all living beings in the infinite worlds. Considering this, the War God quest will be linked to War God title, setting a corresponding quest reward according to your combat prowess. Below the War God UI, the icon of the War God title slowly floated up to the center of the UI and merged with the quest. Gu Qing was stunned. Linked? This was the first time he had ever seen both the War God quest and War God title being linked to this quest. A few moments later, new lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. Description: you carry both the identity of a human and a devil king, created an unprecedented iris sword technique, as well as began to cultivate swordsmanship above the sword saint realm. Your fame of strength and cruelty has long spread among the evil creatures. Thus, the War God title has been prepared. Description: War God title and War God quest have been linked, forming a unique soul points usage method for this quest. During this War God quest, you have obtained a temporary War God title. Temporary War God title, Sword Demon. When you complete this War God quest, the Sword Demon title will solidify as your personal War God title. That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.